Sal Cooper, the most useful shadow for the Cooper family, was kneeling with his sword pierced on the ground, and he was out of breath. He was kneeling in front of the new head of the family, who accused him of betraying the family and secretly collaborating with the enemy for his own selfish desires, so he would order his immediate execution. Sal Cooper was enraged, and he shouted at all of them as bastards. He quickly stood up and swiftly swung his sword at the new head of the family. But Sal Cooper's blade stopped, and he trembled right before he slit the new head's throat. Sal Cooper was stabbed from behind, and as he looked at the blade that was coming out of his chest, he declared that a life he dedicated to the family, but in the end, he became the victim of the family. As the other soldiers were about to stab Sal Cooper with their spears, Sal Cooper wondered if he was going to die just like that. A dragon inside Sal Cooper seemed to have woken up. Sal Cooper vowed that if there is an afterlife, he would cut all those bastards into pieces. A few moments later, someone who was filled with bruises was furrowing their brows. It was a kid that seemed like Sal Cooper, and he looked so astonished as he opened his eyes. He quickly got up and crouched on the ground, unaware of the huge figure behind the curtains near him. The little Sal Cooper wondered where he was and if it was hell, and he inquired why that place felt familiar. Suddenly, water splashed on him. A huge maid instructed that Sal Cooper should hurry up and wash himself off because someone will come to take him soon. Sal Cooper glared at the maid with a murderous look in his eyes. But the maid slapped him across the face, calling him a stinky bastard, and she questioned what he was looking at and if a little brat who hasn't even fully grown wants to turn against her. Sal Cooper was surprised when he heard the maid call him a little brat, so he turned to look at his reflection in the puddle of water on the floor. He began to snicker. Sal Cooper grinned evilly as he looked at his body. He realized that, although he was 3 years old, he had actually been reborn. Sal Cooper recollected that in his previous life, he was a member of the Shadows of Cooper family, and along with the other Shadows, he received the most severe training while growing up. Murder, arson, intel, and much more, as their name suggests, they did all the shady things for the family, and in return, the family also bestowed on them endless wealth and supreme glory. It was the reason why the Shadows endured those hardships willingly. As the illegitimate son of the family, Sal Cooper was determined to change his fate of being bullied by others, so he trained like hell to make up for the lack of his talent. But when he was not taken seriously, he offered to fight for the family. In order to complete the orders, Sal Cooper chopped off the heads of enemies and massacred the city. He fought again and again until he won every battle for the family. Sal Cooper was completely exhausted from the battle, and he thought he would be greeted with the supreme reward. But he didn't expect what he would receive in exchange. When he got back, all he received was an accusation and a frame. Sal Cooper also learned the truth about the existence of shadows, as the new head of the family revealed that from the day he became a shadow, he cast the shadow oath on him. The new head of the family declared that the strength Sal Cooper obtained from his training will all be continuously transferred to him, while the damage he suffers will be borne by him. He proclaimed that Sal Cooper was just a fool and a pathetic, dirty bastard, and he laughed hysterically. In rage, Sal Cooper screamed and swung his sword with all his strength at the new head of the family. Sal Cooper managed to hit the new head of the family in the shoulder, but he just grinned menacingly. Suddenly, the injury was healed by some energy, and the same energy created warps on Sal Cooper's body and pushed him away from the head. Although Sal Cooper has understood the blood magic of the reversal shadow oath and regained all the abilities that Alan, the new head of the family, took away from him, his life has also come to an end because of that. Back in the present, Sal Cooper was determined, and he swore that in that life, he would never let himself make the same mistake he made before. Sal Cooper's stomach grumbled, and he mentioned that he was so hungry that it felt like he hadn't eaten in 3 days. Suddenly, a mouse squeaked from the corner of the room. Sal Cooper smiled evilly as he looked at the mouse, and he suggested that he should eat the mouse first to satisfy his hunger because, on the battlefield in his previous life, mice were more delicious than human flesh. But suddenly, someone lifted the curtain. Sal Cooper was about to catch the mouse, but 2 men entered the room, and one of them called him a trash bastard. One of them communicated that their master, Alan, wanted to see him, so he should come with them. As the men dragged Sal Cooper, he recounted that during that time in his previous life, he was chosen to become a shadow, but all his memories regarding the initiation had disappeared, so he figured that it must have been the time when he was cursed with the blood magic, the shadow oath. Sal Cooper smiled. Suddenly, he bit the hand of one of the men. The other man tried to shake Sal Cooper off as he tried to bite him, and as he cursed and inquired if Sal Cooper was a dog, the other man who got bitten insisted that he should catch him quickly. As Sal Cooper landed on the ground, the man who got beaten swung his fist at him, called him a bastard, and cautioned that he shouldn't be too arrogant. But the man was astonished when Sal Cooper managed to dodge his fist. Sal Cooper quickly grabbed the man's sword. The man screamed in pain as Sal Cooper swung the sword at him. As the man's arm fell into the ground with a loud thud, the other man looked terrified, and he was astonished that Sal Cooper actually knew how to use a sword. On the other hand, Sal Cooper was grinning evilly with the sword in his hand, and he asserted that the opportunity for his revenge had come. Shadow Oath is a form of ancient blood magic where the caster, who would be the master of the oath, only needs to pay a small amount of blood as a price to make the target become his shadow. The shadow will be unable to harm the master, will bear all the damage suffered by the master, and at the same time, the shadow's growth and abilities will be provided to the lord. Due to its overly cruel magical properties, the Empire issued an order 100 years ago to destroy all magic books containing Shadow Oath and prohibit anyone from using it ever again. In front of the gathered children, where Sal Cooper was, someone slapped one of the men and labeled him a trash bastard. It was the 8-year-old Alan Cooper, heir of the Cooper family, and he declared that to be bullied by a wild dog. All the resources of the Cooper family are wasted on the man who apologized to him and acknowledged that it was a subordinate who neglected their duty. Alan Cooper approached Sal Cooper and he asserted that even a fish like him dares to touch his people. Sal Cooper did not respond, and he just looked at Alan Cooper intently. Alan Cooper looked terrifying as he demanded that someone should lock Sal Cooper up in the dungeon. The men agreed, but suddenly, a lady arrived and interjected that Alan Cooper should wait. It was Hira Cooper, the matriarch of the Cooper family and Alan's mother, and she explained that Sal Cooper has been neglected since he was born, so his crazy behavior is completely normal, but it was not the time to punish him because the important thing at the moment is the oath-taking ceremony. Hira Cooper reminded that Alan Cooper shouldn't forget what his mother told him. Alan Cooper's eyes widened while Hira Cooper looked so sinister as she conveyed to him and imparted that it was about what they were going to accomplish that day. Looking at Sal Cooper, Alan Cooper voiced his confusion about why Hira Cooper insisted on choosing the lowly illegitimate child to be his shadow, so when he found the opportunity, he would definitely destroy him. Alan Cooper smiled at Hira Cooper and responded affirmatively while calling her mother. Hira Cooper turned around, and she announced that she would take those people out first and wouldn't disturb him while endearingly calling him their future little head of the family. As she walked away with the men, she instructed that they should clear the palace, leaving only Alan Cooper while the rest of them went out and cast soundproofing spells and not let anyone disturb him, and they complied. A few moments later, someone was clearing their throat and was pouring liquid into a cup. It was Alan Cooper, and as he raised his cup, he proclaimed that from that day onward, all of them would be members of the Shadow Army, so they should swear an oath for the family. The other children enthusiastically swore in the name of the Shadow and pledged that they will dedicate their lives to the family, and everything they have is given by the family and the family's order, while Sal Cooper was scrutinizing the drink in his hand. Sal Cooper smiled discreetly as the children affirmed that it was for the family. He drank the liquid in the cup. Suddenly, the cup fell to the floor. Sal Cooper and the rest of the children fell unconscious, and they were all lying on the ground. Pushing his finger into a blade, Alan Cooper looked so evil, and as he clicked his tongue, he mocked them a bunch of idiots and criticized that they couldn't tell the difference between drugs and holy water. Alan Cooper extended his hand, and his blood was dripping from one of his fingers. A magic circle was activated in front of him, and he declared that all of the children would provide their strength to him while all the harm he sustained would be suffered by them. A dark aura began crawling underneath Alan Cooper's feet. It began wrapping around the unconscious children. Alan Cooper looked so pleased as he remarked that he could feel the power pouring into his body, and as he wondered if the Shadow Oath was a success, he observed that he didn't expect it to be so simple, and he was a genius, so he had to convey the good news to his mother quickly. He quickly turned around and contacted his mother, but he suddenly felt a pang of pain in his knee. Alan Cooper looked so horrified as he fell to the floor, and he wondered why he couldn't move his legs. He wondered if it could be a side effect of the Shadow Oath, and he revealed that his mother didn't inform him about it. With tears in his eyes, Alan Cooper summoned his mother repeatedly and desperately. Alan Cooper was startled when someone announced that he really is a coward who only knows how to hide behind his mother. He slowly looked behind him to see who it was, and the person disclosed that it was a pity that, in order not to disturb him while he completed his Shadow Oath, his mother cast a soundproof spell, so no matter how loud he screamed, she wouldn't be able to hear him. It was Sal Cooper, and with a sword in his hand, he looked so sinister, which made Alan Cooper even more terrified. Alan Cooper asked Sal Cooper how he could be awake and how he knew about the Shadow Oath, but instead of answering his question, Sal Cooper inquired if he was scared and mentioned that he knew more than that. Sal Cooper looked so evil, and he speculated that he wondered how Alan Cooper would respond if he reversed the Shadow Oath. He raised the sword in his hand, and an aura began wrapping around it. Sal Cooper thrust the sword on the ground and broke the floor. Suddenly, Alan Cooper screamed in pain, and as he wondered why his heart hurt so much, he questioned Sal Cooper what he was going to do and insisted that he should cease it. Sal Cooper pulled the sword out of the floor, and he echoed Alan Cooper's question. He recalled that in his previous life, he paid the price of his life to regain everything that belonged to him. Sal Cooper grinned, and as he lunged his sword forward, he confessed that he was just returning the favor. Suddenly, a loud scream could be heard from outside the palace, and Hira Cooper, who was standing by the door along with some men, heard it. One of the men announced that the spell shattered, and Hera Cooper quickly turned and summoned Alan Cooper's name with her face filled with worry. It was already evening, and the bright full moon was shining over the palace. Alan Cooper was on his bed with Hera Cooper by his side when an old man revealed that Alan Cooper was fine as he just fainted because he consumed too much magic power. And as for why the soundproofing spell broke, it was because a servant was distracted while casting a spell, but he had already ordered him to be executed. Hera Cooper suggested that they should throw the body away and feed it to the dogs, and the old man agreed. The old man noted that Alan Cooper seems a bit distracted because, after all, he is too young to do something like that, so it was inevitable that there would be a psychological burden. Meanwhile, Alan Cooper was in a daze because he was wondering why he felt like something happened there, but he couldn't seem to remember it. Suddenly, Hera Cooper caressed Alan Cooper's head lightly. She asserted that Alan Cooper shouldn't have to worry about those shadows because the world is like the jungle, but she was cut off. Alan Cooper slapped her hand and demanded her what she meant when she mentioned worry. He looked so terrifying as he proclaimed that he was the future head of the Cooper family, and those bastards were born to die for him. Hera Cooper was moved when Alan queried her if he was right. Unaware of the silhouette by the window, Hera Cooper laughed as she confirmed that Alan Cooper is right, and that she is indeed her son, so if he wanted any reward, he should just tell her, and Alan Cooper responded affirmatively and that she is the best. Sal Cooper was the one standing by the window, and he scoffed that their mother and son bond is really deep, but it was a pity. Releasing a buzzing aura in his hand, Sal Cooper declared that from that day onward, Alan Cooper was his shadow. Sal Cooper reminisced that in his previous life, while fighting for the family, he discovered a blood magic catalog that contained the Shadow Oath. He joyfully shared it with the family, but he didn't realize that he had already become a victim of the family. Fortunately, he took a look at the contents of the catalog and combined it with the experience of regaining his power back in his previous life, so all it took was a little blood to reverse the Shadow Oath. Sal Cooper looked so pleased, but he admitted that nonetheless, he was still too young to fight them, so he must become strong from that day onward. His eyes were filled with determination as he thought about the first step to getting stronger. In the volcanic mountains, it was a test site designed by the Cooper family to pick those shadows who were strong enough to sacrifice themselves for the family. Like Prometheus, who stole the fire for the sake of mankind and sacrificed himself by enduring the eagle's pecking day and night. The Cooper family also threw the children under the age of 10 below the volcanic mountains, and they let them walk through the thorns and let the eagles eat their flesh. Even if they were dying, they are not allowed to give up until the first shadow reaches the top, receives the blessing of the eagle called Griffin, and obtains a body that will not be hurt no matter how much it is pecked or attacked. Back in the present, a man was instructing the children that they only have 3 days, and no matter what method they use, they only have one objective. The man was Enos Walker, the Shadow's trainer, and he emphasized that their objective was to reach the peak of the mountain alive. Enos Walker reminded that, of course, they shouldn't forget that anyone who gives up will be executed after 3 days. Pulling out a whistle, Enos Walker declared that for their bright future, they should get going. He blew on the whistle, and the children began running for their lives. Enos Walker suddenly furrowed his brow when he noticed something. He saw Sal Cooper walking nonchalantly, and he remarked that the kid was calm. While Sal Cooper was walking on a different path than the other children, the other man announced that he was Sal Cooper, the illegitimate son who offended Alan Cooper the other day, and Enos Walker immediately recognized him. Sal Cooper started climbing up the mountain on the steep path that he had chosen. The men began laughing, and the other man observed that Sal Cooper didn't take the slope path and was climbing up the mountain with his bare hands instead, so he was probably going to fall without even reaching the halfway point, and Enos Walker mused that Sal Cooper is an idiot. The man asked Enos Walker if they should go over and collect Sal Cooper's corpse at the moment, and Enos Walker replied no and suggested that they should wait. Enos Walker grinned evilly as he opened his watch, and he proposed that he just had a funny idea because it was about time for the guy to come out. A huge flying creature suddenly appeared in the sky, and the children asked what it was, if it was an eagle. The children got horrified when they realized that it was clearly a monster, and blood was spilled. Meanwhile, Sal Cooper was doing his best to climb up, and he was about to reach the top. As he took a peek at the top, he saw that the ground was filled with the children's dead bodies, and the griffin even had a child in its beak. The griffin's eyes glimmered, and blood splattered. Meanwhile, Enos Walker accused that Sal Cooper offended Alan Walker the other day, and he inquired why he shouldn't use the griffin to get rid of him. Pulling an arrow infused with a dark aura, Enos Walker grinned as he voiced that he would help Alan Walker to be happy. He let go of the arrow, and it grazed the griffin's head. The griffin turned his attention to Sal Cooper, who had just managed to reach the top, and he questioned him who he was. Enraged, the griffin called Sal Cooper a stupid human and commanded that he should die, and when Sal Cooper heard that, he confessed that it just suited his taste. Sal Cooper managed to dodge the griffin's attack by jumping off the ground. He landed on the griffin. Sal Cooper was on the griffin's back, and he shared that, with the experience of his previous life, if he wanted to reach the peak quickly and obtain the griffin's blessing, He knew what to do. He raised his sword with a grin on his face as he vowed that he just had to tame the griffin. Sal Cooper dug his sword into the griffin's head. He quickly jumped away from the griffin after he delivered the attack, and he remarked that the griffin is a stubborn monster with the intelligence of a human, and if he doesn't defeat it completely, it will not be tamed. Sal Cooper charged forward as he declared that he could only use that trick at the moment. He waved his sword and tried to slash the griffin's talons, but the griffin managed to dodge it. The griffin began gathering energy in its mouth. It became a whirlwind, and it blew Sal Cooper away. Sal Cooper screamed as he was falling headfirst from the mountain, but he managed to grab the edge of the mountain, and he exclaimed that he had luckily caught it. Climbing back up, Sal Cooper cursed in his mind as he admitted that he was careless because he was currently 3 years old and not 30, so it doesn't matter even if he remembers all the sword styles of his past life. Sal Cooper observed that with his current body size and weight, he would be slapped away by the griffin before he even got close to it. He saw the cave above him, and he had an idea as long as he reached the cave. The griffin began gathering its energy again, and Sal Cooper was preparing himself. As Sal Cooper managed to dodge the attack, he noted that it was a strong wind blow. He kept on dodging the griffin's attack, and he explained that every time the griffin exhales a wind blow from its mouth, its wind power increases from level 1 to level 10, so if it reaches the 10th wind blow, even if it's 100 of him, he won't be able to escape. Suddenly, Sal Cooper realized something. He quickly stopped running. Sal Cooper jumped off the ground in front of the cave while the griffin gathered its energy again. Blocking the griffin's attack with his sword, Sal Cooper concluded that since there was no way to escape, he should just use its attack power to blow himself into the cave. Sal Cooper screamed as he got blown away towards the cave. He grinned triumphantly, and he suggested that in order to minimize the consumption, he should use the Shadow Oath and draw power from that guy. On the other hand, a teacup suddenly fell. It was Alan Cooper's teacup, and as he fell to the ground while his energy was being drained, the man who saw him urged that somebody should help because Alan Cooper had fainted again. Back into the volcanic mountains, Sal Cooper maneuvered himself in the air, and as he managed to land safely on the ground, he confirmed that the plan was successful. Sal Cooper quickly ran towards the cave, and he insisted that he should hurry. As he ran inside the cave, the griffin arrived at the entrance. The griffin was enraged, and as it charged forward, it called Sal Cooper a bastard and asked him where he thought he was going. A few moments later, the griffin suddenly stopped in its tracks, and its eyes were filled with rage, even though it was surprised. Sal Cooper was grinning evilly while he held the griffin's chick in his arms, and as the chick chirped, asking its mother to save it, the griffin called its baby. Sal Cooper revealed that little does the world know that the mighty griffin's cubs were born with broken wings and were unable to fly. And as the griffin asked him what he was going to do with its baby, Sal Cooper assured that it shouldn't worry because he was not going to hurt the chick. He proposed that, on the contrary, he could heal his wings and help him fly, and the griffin was astonished when it heard what Sal Cooper voiced. But Sal Cooper stated that he has one condition. A few moments later, the man remarked to Enos Walker that he didn't hear any sound, and Enos Walker asserted that Sal Cooper must have been eaten by the griffin, so they should go and report it to Alan Cooper as they would definitely get some reward. And the other man chuckled and proposed that it was a good idea, so they should go. But horror filled their eyes when they saw the griffin appear behind them, and Sal Cooper was riding on it. Sal Cooper declared that they would have to wait for Alan Cooper in hell, and the men were taken aback when they realized it was him. The griffin charged to attack the men, and one of them tried to run away and pleaded for help. In an instant, the men were already in the griffin's mouth. The griffin proclaimed that it had done what it promised Sal Cooper, so it was time to fulfill his promise to it, and Sal Cooper concurred and suggested that they should go to the northern part of that mountain range. A few moments later, the two of them stood in front of a huge door, and Sal Cooper revealed that it was the Land of Stone. The griffin announced that, as they agreed, Sal Cooper would get the Sword of Perseus, and it would get the Medusa's blood, which could heal everything, which Sal Cooper acknowledged and confirmed that it was no problem. But unbeknownst to the griffin, Sal Cooper was thinking that, sadly, his goal was not the sword, let alone helping the griffin. The griffin pushed the door to open it. As the door in front of them opened, Sal Cooper disclosed that what he wanted was to use the griffin to destroy that stone land. A statue of Medusa greeted them. The statue was so huge, and it has a magic circle beneath it and is surrounded by statues of humans wearing cloaks. The statues attacked the griffin, and as it cursed and asked when those stupid statues moved, Sal ran away and replied that he didn't know either. The griffin used its sharp claws to destroy one of the statues, and it shattered into pieces. But the broken pieces of the statue lying on the ground started glowing. Those broken pieces started to gather, and Sal was surprised that he asked if it could reconstruct itself and slowly become one. Sal was horrified when he recognized the statues as Dano, Enio, and Pemfredo, and he explained that those three statues don't have the 5 organs, just like the Gree sisters in mythology, and they share the same eye and the same tooth. The griffin informed that because they and Medusa are the daughters of sea deities, they have the ability to control seawater. One of the statues appeared in front of the griffin, and Sal yelled that they should run. The statue raised its arm, and as huge waves started to chase them. The griffin asked Sal what the point of running was and urged that he should hurry up and think of a way to find the sword. To which Sal responded and mentioned that he was searching for it. The griffin warned that if that goes on, the place will collapse and they will all die there. Sal was agitated, and he insisted that he was looking, and maybe there is a way written on the runes at the wall. But he smiled evilly as he thought that it was very good and that was it. They should collapse the secret realm and bury everything within. Sal was running towards a portal, and he thought that he would escape from that secret tunnel that he discovered in his previous life. But he suddenly stopped running, as he thought that that amount of destruction was not enough. Sal pointed above as he called the griffin, and he revealed that the runes say that they should remove the eye from up there, and the statues will stop attacking. When the griffin saw what Sal was pointing at, she asked to confirm if it was the eye above. The griffin flapped its wings and flew towards the eye. She declared that in that case she would remove it and grab the eye with her beak. The wave started to subside as the griffin flew away from the ceiling. The statue screamed in pain and began melting. As the griffin saw that the statue turned into a huge puddle of water, she commented that it actually turned into water and it was impressive. Sal remarked that it was because the runes say that Perseus discovered the location of Medusa only after stealing the eye of the Gree sisters, so the eye is the Gree sisters' weakness. The griffin inquired Sal about the sword, where the blood that could treat her offspring was, and if the runes said anything. Sal pointed to his side and indicated that the sword was right there and the griffin should look. The griffin turned to look at where Sal was pointing and saw the sword that was stuck on the ground. Sal stated that Perseus used that sword to behead Medusa, spilling both red and green blood. He mentioned that the red blood could poison all living souls to death while the green blood could heal all illnesses. The eyes of the Medusa statue lit up while Sal noted that those were just legends, but as for that secret realm, there is another secret, and as the griffin asked about the secret, Sal smiled pensively. Sal revealed that the emergence of the sword of Perseus is the time of Medusa's revival, and the eyes of the Medusa statue glowered at them. The Medusa statue suddenly moved and attacked the griffin, which was caught off guard. Medusa attacked the griffin using its snake hairs, and there was a huge explosion of aura. While Medusa was preoccupied with attacking the griffin, Sal started running away while he thought that it was alright and it was time to leave. Sal ran towards the secret portal, and he thought that once Medusa is activated, it won't stop unless they behead it with the sword of Perseus. But Sal was alarmed when he noticed something behind him. A huge snake statue attacked him, and he managed to dodge it. Sal skidded on the ground while he tried to look at the direction where the attack came from. He saw that it was Medusa who attacked him, so he wondered what was going on. Sal wondered where the griffin was when he noticed a small tail protruding behind a rock. It was the griffin, and she replied that she could tell at a glance that Medusa won't be easy to deal with, so she will leave the rest to Sal because she doesn't want to die, and Sal was surprised that the griffin has a skill to shrink itself. The snakes of Medusa charged towards Sal, and he scoffed in his head. Sal dodged Medusa's attack, and he thought that it was fortunate that he passed that secret realm once in his previous life, so he was not out of options. He was running towards the knights standing on the side, and he thought that he must first acquire the shield from the knights of the Round Table. Sal thought that he would be able to use the reflection of the shield to lower the risk of looking directly into Medusa's eyes and turning into stone from carelessness. Medusa grinned evilly while Sal thought that he could also shield against Medusa's gaze attack. As if right on cue, Medusa used its gaze attack on Sal, and Sal managed to block it with the shield he got from the knight. But the power of Medusa was strong that Sal was having a hard time continuously blocking it, and was groaning in pain. Sal was not able to hold much longer, and he was blown away by Medusa's attack while coughing up blood. While he was lying on the ground, Sal thought that it was not enough to just have the shield. Looking at the rocks behind Medusa, Sal thought that the secret exit had been destroyed. Sal thought that with the level of his talents, he couldn't wield the sword of Perseus, but he negated his thoughts and started running towards the sword. Medusa was chasing after Sal, and while Sal extended his hand to grab the sword, he thought that he wouldn't know if he didn't try, and if he didn't give it his all, he would die that day. Sal grabbed the sword and thought that he would do it even if he had to put everything he had at stake. He was able to pull the sword from the ground, and he couldn't help but be surprised that the sword was easily picked up by him. But one of Medusa's snakes pierced through his torso, and as Sal coughed up blood, he wondered why. The sword of Perseus was dragged on the ground, and it was raised again. Medusa raised Sal off the ground to take a good look at him while Sal was still wondering why and questioned if the rank of his talent wasn't too low to hold the sword. Sal recalled his past, where Alan questioned him for wanting to stain the holy sword when he was a mere D-rank talent, and he wondered where he went wrong. He also recalled how he was restrained and hanged on a cross while Alan asked Hera if he wouldn't know that they were going to strip his talent away from him when he was still conscious, and Hera replied that Alan was a silly child because a simple amnesia magic would be enough to settle it. Looking down at Alan, Sal wondered how things became like that. Meanwhile, Alan grinned as he insincerely apologized and remarked that Sal's swordsmanship talent would also be his. Everything shattered. Back into the present, Sal was exuding a powerful aura while wielding the sword of Perseus, and Medusa's snakes were cut off. The griffin, who was still hiding behind the rock, wondered what was going on. He looked at Sal's fiery aura intently as she thought about the kid. The griffin saw that Sal's wound was healing, and she wondered if Sal actually broke off the bind unscathed. Sal opened his eyes and glared. He effortlessly swung the sword and beheaded Medusa, which made the griffin think that he was a monster. Sal scooped Medusa's green blood into a vial, and he thought that in his past life, he possessed a sword talent that might have been S rank or higher. He thought that the truth was that Hera used some form of magic to strip him of that talent and gave it to Alan, and she also erased his memories, which made him scoff. Sal started laughing hysterically, and the griffin, who was watching him, wondered what was suddenly going on with him. While grinning evilly, Sal thought that things were getting more and more interesting, whether it was Alan or the family, so all of them should just wait. The griffin slowly backed away as he thought that he shouldn't care and that he would take that chance to hurriedly scurry away while Sal was going crazy. But the griffin was startled when Sal called him and remarked that he should come towards him. The griffin nervously addressed Sal as his lord while he asked him why he called him, and in his mind, he just realized that he was an S-rank monster and wondered why he was afraid of Sal. Sal inquired if the griffin's head was made of metal, which confused the griffin. A few moments later, the griffin burst out of the secret realm. Sal was riding on the griffin's back, and with huge bumps on his head, the griffin thought that Sal was a brat that was making use of him to destroy the secret realm right from the start. But since Sal could treat his offspring, he would let it pass. Meanwhile, the secret realm was buried underneath the rubbles. Suddenly, Medusa's face emerged, and its essence was being absorbed by some sort of circular item that has her face as a symbol. The face on the item suddenly opened, and its eyes glinted. On the other hand, the griffin was back in his nest, and as he called Sal, he mentioned that with his title as the griffin, she would bless him. Golden light wrapped around Sal as the griffin declared that she would bless him with a body that would never be injured no matter how he was attacked. Sal was in awe as he observed his body, and he thought that it felt like his body had strengthened and some of his minor injuries had healed, which was good because reducing his body's injuries meant that he wouldn't need to constantly transfer his injuries to Alan anymore, which could make Hera suspicious. He thought that furthermore, he must hide his S-rank sword talent in the meantime, or he would be inviting unwanted trouble. As the griffin's offspring peeked from behind, Sal gave the vial containing Medusa's green blood to the griffin, and instructed that she should give it to her young offspring and its wings will be healed. The griffin's offspring quickly drank the blood. The offspring closed its eyes as it felt the energy flow into its body. It excitedly flew off the ground, and as the griffin announced that her baby could finally fly, Sal clicked his tongue multiple times. Sal remarked that the offspring only knows how to fly at the moment, but if it doesn't accept a master before it comes of age, it will just be a stupid bird in the end. And when the griffin heard that, she asked Griffin what he meant. Sal walked away and explained that it was nothing and that he was just giving the griffin some kind-hearted advice as a stranger because, after all, she also became strong only after she accepted a master. The griffin thought that Sal was right because if her master hadn't fed her human brains daily, she wouldn't have awakened her intelligence and become even stronger. But her master had already died for 100 years, so she wondered where she was going to find another powerful and ruthless person like him. But the griffin realized something and thought that it was right. She towered over Sal and called him. The griffin requested that Sal accept her child as his pet monster while he thought that Sal possesses incredible intelligence and skills beyond anyone his age, so he might even exceed Bled, her master, in the future. Sal grinned as he thought that the fish took the bait. He turned to agree with the griffin, and as he replied that he could accept her offspring as his pet monster, but she had to make a deal with him. The griffin asked about the deal, and he specified that he wanted all the information she had regarding Bled Cooper. Sal stated that he also wanted the precious key that could unlock the place where the Cooper family worships the sword spirit Bled. Meanwhile, back at the palace, someone asked to confirm if they could not find the cause. It was Hera, and she inquired if they were telling her that Alan's constant fainting happens out of thin air, and how long the situation would last. Hera was talking to the old man, who assured her that she shouldn't worry because Alan has the protection of the Shadow Oath, and has always woken up very quickly because, after all, they have those little shadows helping Alan take his injuries in his place and supply him with strength. She thought that what the old man explained might be true, but the whole situation was too strange, and it seemed like Alan had been like that since the day of the Shadow Oath ceremony, so there must be someone behind it. The old man suddenly became anxious when he remembered something. He mentioned that there was another urgent matter Hera had to take care of at the moment and that Sal obtained first place as expected in the competence test. But there was a problem to which Hera asked what it was. Hera spit her drink when the old man revealed that Sal used the griffin to kill Enos and his nephew and even tamed the griffin's offspring as his pet monster. She quickly put her drink down and asked where Sal was at the moment, to which the old man informed that Sal was right outside the door and he would call him immediately. A few moments later, someone entered the room, and Hira stood up from her seat to greet them. It was Sal, and he asked Hira how he could help her. Hira demanded why he killed the walkers. Sal was sinister as he replied that he did it all for the family because a shadow training officer like Enos was killed by a 3-year-old child, so he was too useless, and the Cooper family doesn't need trash like him. Hira was enraged while Sal questioned her if she didn't agree. Looking at Hira's expression, Sal thought that it was right. That was the expression. Sal thought that it was anger and hatred, but even if Hira brings out all her cards, he will never be afraid. Hira's expression suddenly changed into a smile, and as she called Doug, the old man, she instructed that he should reward Sal with recuperation in the Eden Spring, which surprised Sal. Sal bowed to Hira and thanked her while he thought that Eden Spring was a coincidence. A few moments later, Sal left and closed the door. Hira immediately commanded that Doug should accelerate the research for the deprivation magic because before the sword spirit inheritance ceremony, Sal's talent must be stripped for Alan's use, and as Doug agreed, she reflected that if the secret that Alan has no talent for swordsmanship is exposed, his position as the heir will be shaken. She was enraged again as she thought that Sal was a brat and that she would let him off at that time, but she would see how arrogant he was when the time came. On the other hand, at Eden Spring, the place was brightly lit. Some kids who were bathing in the spring were glaring at Sal as he walked past them, but he was unaware of it as he was thinking about something deeply. Sal recalled that the Griffin mentioned that before Bled's death, he used forbidden magic to seal his soul under the Eden Spring, and his purpose was to pass on the swordsmanship he had acquired throughout his life to the heir that possessed S-rank swordsmanship talent, and ensure the status of the Cooper family in the Empire would not fall. The Griffin gave Sal a key and explained that once he enters the Eden Spring, he should swim along the undercurrent, and he will reach an underground cave where the key will guide him to the owner. But the Griffin noted that there appears to be something strange about Eden Spring. But she has been separated from Bled for too long, and she doesn't even know the exact requirements. However, the only thing she could tell him was that the owner uses blood magic and it won't be easy to deal with. Back in the present, Sal remarked that the blood magic was odd, and he thought that it looked like it wouldn't be easy getting the swordsmanship inheritance before Alan. Suddenly, one of the kids on the spring near Sal asked if he was the Sal Cooper that got first place in the competence training, to which another kid confirmed that it was right, and he even tamed the offspring of the Griffin, to which the first kid exclaimed that it was amazing. But Renault Ors, the son of the Cooper family's stablekeeper and Lucien's, Renault's little sidekick, arrived, and the kid was alarmed when Lucien questioned him what was amazing about that when Sal was just the son of a prostitute. Renault congratulated Sal and mentioned that he didn't expect someone as thin as a monkey like him to run as fast as one and become the first to reach the summit, which made Lucien laugh hysterically while he confirmed that it was right. Sal recalled that in his previous life, on the surface, those two were his subordinates, but in reality, they were pawns placed beside him by Alan, and they fabricated baseless accusations of him collaborating with the enemy nation, and because they had Alan supporting them, they got used to getting their way. Because Sal remained quiet, Renault raised his fist as he asked him if he was not going to respond and declared that he wanted to see whether that invincible body of his was useless or not. Sal just stood there while Renault was about to deliver a punch to his face, but he caught Renault's fist and Renault was horrified. Sal agreed and proclaimed that he would show Renault as he twisted his arm, which made Renault scream in pain while Lucien got worried and called Renault his big brother. Lucien suddenly pulled a knife and insulted that Sal was dog trash who was looking for death. Blood was spilled, but instead of being glad that he managed to stab his knife, Lucien was horrified and was trembling. Lucien stabbed Renault on the chest instead of Sal, and he was surprised. Sal grinned evilly as he insincerely apologized and joked that he accidentally used Renault as a meat shield. Lucien was still stunned when Sal kicked Renault towards him. Renault and Lucien were thrown towards the spring, and Sal commented that it just so happens that the spring could recover their injuries, so they should have a good time there. Sal grinned sinisterly as he noted that after all, he wanted to use the two of them for training in the future, and he thought that in that life, he would give them a reason they couldn't reject and make the both of them his pawns. While Renault was submerged into the water, dark tentacles suddenly wrapped around his body, and Sal wondered if it was the aura of black magic. Sal wondered why that evil forbidden magic, which is equal to blood magic, would appear in a spring that could recover all wounds and illness, and he thought that perhaps it was the odd thing that the Griffin mentioned. But Sal thought that regardless, he could not enter that water, so he had to think of a way to get into the bottom of the spring without touching a drip of water. Suddenly, a little girl was being dragged by a man, and as she asked for help, Sal was taken aback, and he commented that the voice was familiar. The man dragging the little girl shouted that she can't even serve tea and water properly, so he thought that she was asking for a beating. But the little girl, whom Sal recognized as Andrea, begged that she didn't do it on purpose and requested that the man let go of her. The man got more enraged, and he raised his hand as he threatened that Andrea still dares to talk back to him. But before the man could explain what he would do to Andrea, His eyes became misaligned, and his face seemed to have been sliced. It was Sal who sliced the man in half with his sword, and while Andrea was stunned, the other kids screamed. As the man's sliced body splattered on the floor, one of the kids running away exclaimed that it was murder, so they should quickly go and report it, and they should run. Meanwhile, Sal extended his hand towards Andrea and asked her if she was alright. In Andrea's perspective, flowers were blooming everywhere and Sal was sparkling, so she wondered if he was a prince. On the other hand, in Sal's perspective, Andrea was trembling as she looked up to him with her fearful eyes, and he wondered if he scared her. Sal awkwardly scratched his head as he pulled his hand away, and he stuttered as he apologized to Andrea if he scared her, but Andrea replied no. Andrea thanked Sal for saving her, and as she introduced herself, she asked Sal what his name was. Sal recalled how Andrea healed him while she mentioned that he should look at himself and asked how he got hurt, and he thought that Andrea was his best friend in his previous life and she possesses a magic talent that surpasses anyone her age. He also recalled that they fought together temporarily for a few days too, and Andrea assured him that he shouldn't worry and attack because she would support him. Sal also recalled how bashful Andrea was when she was trying to tell him about how she had always felt. Back into the present, the young Andrea thanked Sal for saving her. Sal was flustered, and he thought that 5-year-old Andrea was cute. He awkwardly cleared his throat and remarked that it was no problem because it was what a gentleman should do, and she could also call him Sal. But Sal asked Andrea if she knew a way to drain the spring or get into the spring without touching a drop of water, and he thought that he could not forget the task at hand because if it was Andrea, there should be a way. Andrea inquired if Sal realized it too. Sal was surprised by Andrea's question. Andrea leaned in to whisper at Sal and revealed that although there is a strange magic in the spring that could recover injuries, anyone that uses it could never accept another form of healing magic and could only rely on that spring to recover their injuries. Sal immediately knew what was the case, and he thought that it looked like it was also another way for the Cooper family to control the shadows by forcing them to beg the family for help when they were suffering through pain. Andrea offered that to thank Sal for saving her, she had a way to let him enter the spring without touching the water. She released a bright, golden aura, and it began wrapping around her. The aura covered both Andrea and Sal like raincoats, and Andrea explained that Sal should look because it was called duck magic, which puzzled Sal. So Andrea elaborated and informed him that it enables people to become like ducks, which could dive into the water without wetting the insides of their feathers. Sal felt awkward as he wondered if it wasn't isolation magic, and he thought that Andrea's naming ability was strong as always. Suddenly, a group of men arrived, and when they saw Sal, they announced that he was the kid that killed someone, which made Andrea worry, and she exclaimed that they were going to catch them. Sal quickly grabbed Andrea's arm and urged that they should run. The two of them jumped into the water. As the two of them dived deeper, Sal saw something swirling, and he thought that it was the undercurrent of the spring, so it should be the place. Andrea tried to stop Sal by gesturing, and she meant to convey that they can't go there so they should leave quickly, but Sal couldn't understand her. The current suddenly got strong, and the two of them got sucked into it. A few moments later, Sal was lying on the floor, and Andrea was calling his name, trying to wake him up. Sal groaned in pain as he slowly opened his eyes. He sat down and looked around, and he wondered if it was the place. Sal pulled out the key from his pocket, and as Andrea asked what it was, he replied that it was the gem key, the key that could unlock the place where they worshipped the sword spirit. But Andrea observed that there was no door there, and as she asked how they would use the key, Sal speculated that perhaps it needed to be summoned, which made Andrea curious. Andrea remarked that although she doesn't know what a sword spirit is, she could try it, and Sal handed the key to her. A bright golden aura shrouded Andrea as a magic circle appeared beneath her feet, and as she requested the key to listen to her call, she commanded that it should find its master and open the door to its place. Sal was watching Andrea as she performed her magic when the plant above them suddenly twitched. He immediately noticed it and exclaimed that it was bad. The plants became ferocious monsters with sharp teeth, and Sal quickly grabbed Andrea to get her out of harm's way. The two of them fell on the ground, and Sal was holding Andrea close to protect her from the fall. The ferocious monsters have merged to create a portal, and Sal announced that it appeared. Sal turned to call Andrea, but she didn't respond, so he got worried and called her again. But Andrea still didn't wake up, so Sal carried her in his arms. Sal placed Andrea to the side, and he thought that he had no choice but to let her rest in there for the meantime. He thought that he would use the invisibility magic Andrea taught him in his previous life so she wouldn't be easily discovered if there was any danger. As Sal walked away, he thought that after all, there would probably be an ugly battle to obtain the inheritance of the spirit sword. A few moments later, Sal entered the portal, and on the other side, there was a pile of dead bodies lying on the ground. Sal looked concerned when he saw the dead bodies, and he thought that he was prepared. He saw a human-like figure at the top of the pile of dead bodies, and it was grabbing a lifeless body in its hand. The human-like figure was choking the lifeless body, and it was intently looking at it. Suddenly, the figure noticed Sal, and as it turned, it revealed its monstrous appearance, and it stated that there was a guest. Eden Spring, on the surface, is a medicinal hot spring, but in reality, it is a sensual place where the Cooper family keeps their concubines, and at that moment, Sal realized the true fate that awaited those concubines. Sal was surprised, as he wondered if all of them became nourishment for the sword demon. He was alarmed when the sword demon suddenly appeared in front of him. The sword demon sniffed Sal and remarked that it was the scent of a S-rank talent. Sal quickly backed away from the sword demon. He was agitated as he wondered how the sword demon knew while he yanked his necklace off his neck. While summoning his sword, the sword demon inquired if Sal could be Alan Cooper, the kid that was rumored to be born with an S-rank talent. But he commented that Sal doesn't look pampered at all. The sword demon was sinister as it lunged towards Sal, and as he mused that Sal should let him guess, he asked if Sal could be just a bastard child that came to take the inheritance. Sal summoned his sword as well and managed to block the sword demon's attack. The sword demon declared that he wouldn't give the inheritance to Sal easily unless he could get past him, and Sal retorted that the sword demon shouldn't worry because he came just to kill him. The sword demon pushed Sal's sword away with his sword and exclaimed that it was as expected of his blood Cooper's descendant. He swung his sword at Sal again and taunted that he was crazy enough. The sword demon charged forward while Sal was pushed back. The two of them moved so quickly as they exchanged blows. The sword demon managed to slash Sal's torso, and Sal groaned in pain as his blood spurted out of his body. While Sal was lying on the ground, coughing up blood, the sword demon loomed over him and sneered that he was a brat that was still too weak. But the sword demon noticed something and was intrigued. He saw that Sal's wound was healing, and as he questioned if it was the Griffin's blessing, he admitted that he didn't expect the foolish bird to acknowledge Sal. The sword demon clicked his tongue and muttered that speaking of which, it has been a while since he last saw the Griffin, while Sal thought that blood sacrificed a great amount of his power to seal his soul. Sal thought that to get the inheritance with his current abilities, there was still a sliver of hope, and he released his powerful, fiery aura. He summoned a huge golden cross behind the sword demon, and the sword demon was astonished when he saw it. The sword demon's palms were pierced by the golden aura, and as he got pinned on the cross, he queried if it was magic restrictive blood formation and started screaming in pain. Sal declared that the sword demon had been dead for too long, and he didn't know that in those 100 years, the Empire had already researched and developed techniques to deal with blood magic. He charged forward to plunge his sword and asserted that at that moment, all he had to do was take the sword demon's heart and he would forcefully receive the inheritance. The sword demon screamed and shouted no when he saw Sal's sword coming at him. But suddenly, the sword demon smiled sinisterly. Sal was surprised that he was stunned when the sword demon suddenly appeared beside him while feigning fear, and claimed that he was scared. He quickly backed away from the sword demon, and the sword demon laughed hysterically as it remarked that it was very interesting as it had been a while since he played with a little mouse. Blood started dripping out of the sword demon's hand. The sword demon smiled evilly as he declared that the game was already over, so he was not playing anymore. Hooded skeletal figures were summoned using the sword demon's blood on the ground, and he acknowledged that Sal does possess some ability and talent. All those summons charged at Sal, and the sword demon stated that it was just that Sal's ability and talent were not enough to earn his sword technique inheritance. Sal did his best to block their attacks, and he thought that the sword demon used blood to control blood spirits, so he has such powerful strength. He screamed in pain when one of the blood spirits slashed his back. The blood spirits were swirling around Sal, and while he did his best to fend them off, he thought that the attacks were too concentrated. Sal used his skill, Holy Sword Protection, to create a barrier to block the blood spirits' attacks, and he thought that he would use the Sword of Perseus to resist the magic. But the sword demon tapped the barrier and commented that it was useless. Sal was horrified when the barrier shattered easily. The sword demon went ahead and grabbed Sal by the throat. He raised Sal in the air, and as he began absorbing his aura, he remarked that Sal should know that after a cat is done toying with a mouse, the mouse will be eaten. Sal groaned weakly, and he thought that his blood and mana were draining away. While Sal was starting to lose his consciousness, the sword demon noted that his aura is familiar, and it was just like the taste of a concubine that he had eaten last time, so he inquired if perhaps that person was Sal's mother. Sal was stunned when he heard about his mother. The sword demon was about to devour Sal and gloated that it was perfect so he would have a taste of the concubine's child. But suddenly, something shattered. Sal was peacefully sleeping, and someone repeatedly insisted that their dear baby should go to sleep. It was Sal's mother, and Sal recalled as she sang him to sleep and mentioned that she was swinging him gently. Sal also recalled how he was running towards his mother while carrying a flower and explained that it was for her. But Sal tripped and fell face first on the ground. Instead of helping him, Sal's mother walked away. And as she apologized and announced that she was leaving, Sal cried and called for her. Some time passed, and someone threw a rock at Sal and taunted that his mother abandoned him. The children surrounded Sal and bullied him. They shouted that he was a dog, an insignificant bastard, a monster, and unwanted trash. Sal was trembling as he whispered no. He yelled and protested that his mother definitely did not throw him away. Sal recalled how the sword demon was about to devour him in the present. His aura suddenly swirled around his eyes as he regained his consciousness. Sal drove his sword into the sword demon's chest and revealed that it was him who killed his mother. The sword demon was astonished when Sal's sword started absorbing his blood. He screamed in pain while Sal continued to absorb a tremendous amount of his blood, and as he recognized that it was Blood Feast, he wondered how a brat like Sal could know his blood magic. The sword demon threw Sal away, and as he sent him flying, he thought that Sal was a brat who was willing to burn his blood just to kill him. He turned to look at the corpses on the ground, and he thought that he had used up too much of his strength releasing the blood spirits, so he needed to consume more women to replenish his strength. While the sword demon was devouring one of the corpses, Sal approached him from behind and inquired if it was delicious. Sal's eyes were white, and he demanded if his mother was delicious while he plunged his sword at the horrified sword demon. The sword demon's blood was spilled, and the crying image of Sal's mother calling for him shattered. Sal's eyes returned to normal, and he was astonished as he called for his mother. He saw that his sword was pierced through the sword demon's head while he was releasing his fiery aura. Sal pulled his sword, and the sword demon fell to the ground. The sword demon thought that Sal had gone mad, so he had to eat more concubines, otherwise he was afraid that he would perish. But Sal dug his sword into the sword demon's body again. He was sinister as he drove his sword deeper into the sword demon's body while the sword demon begged that Sal shouldn't kill him because he could possess his sword and become his sword spirit and enhance his power. But the sword demon was not able to finish what he was about to utter as Sal did not listen and continued to dig his sword until it went through his chest. Sal emotionlessly looked at the sword demon and declared that he was not worthy. The sword demon turned into blood, which splattered all over the place. Some of the blood had gathered to form an orb and stated that the swordsmanship inheritance would be imprinted within the body after absorption. Sal dropped his sword into the pool of blood on the ground. As the orb of blood scattered and rained down on him, Sal thought that he almost forgot that he had been motherless since birth, and all those were just his pathetic delusions. So he was a pitiful monster. But as Sal looked at his reflection, he saw the image of his mother embracing him, and she reassured him that he was not a monster because he has always been by his side. Someone suddenly called Sal from behind, and he turned to see who it was. It was Andrea, and she was worried as she ran towards Sal and asked if he was okay. Sal looked at Andrea with his eyes void of emotions while Andrea questioned why he was covered in blood, where he was hurt, and insisted that he should let her heal him. He was stunned when Andrea began healing him. Sal recalled that in the previous life, Andrea too met the same fate as the concubines. He suddenly hugged Andrea, and she was surprised and puzzled. While he was still hugging Andrea, Sal looked determined as he thought that in that life he would not let tragedy repeat itself. The disappearance of the sword demon caused a commotion within the family, resulting in the sentencing of all guardians of Eden Spring to death, and after witnessing Sal's ruthlessness, the servants never dared to bully Andrea again. And amidst the lies, Sal was accused of being the cause of the sword demon's disappearance, but without evidence, here it could only intensify the persecution, confinement, withdrawing blood, and poison, but Sal survived all of them unscathed. 4 years later, at the Cooper family training ground, a man screamed in pain as he got pushed by an attack that he blocked with his sword. It was Alan who dealt the attack, and as the man asked him to have mercy, Alan asked him if he wanted to defeat him with that level of ability, but the man replied that he wouldn't dare because Alan was very powerful. Duke Hugh Isaac, the Isaac family head, and Duke Leon Cooper, the Cooper family head, were watching the fight when Hugh remarked that he had long heard that the esteemed family's young master, Alan, was born with S-grade swordsmanship talent, and after seeing it that day, it looked like the rumors were right, and Leon cleared his throat as he noted that Hugh was flattering them. But someone screamed and urged them to look over there. That scream caught both Hugh and Leon's attention, and they both turned to look at the direction where it was coming from. They were looking towards Sal, and as multiple enemies charged towards him, the audience was amazed while Sal muttered that it was noisy. Sal calmly raised his sword, and as he poured his aura into it, he used his skill, Shadow Blade. He swung his sword and released his aura as he used his sword wind follow-up attack to eliminate the enemies. In an instant, all of Sal's enemies were lying on the ground, and Hugh seemed to have recognized those number of moves. While looking at the confident Sal, Hugh commented that ordinary people at that age would still be in the position of Iron Sword Apprentice, but Sal has clearly reached the stage of Silver Sword Guardian, which was incredible. Alan was pissed when he saw what Sal did, and he thought that the bastard dared to steal his thunder. He pointed his sword at Sal and rudely challenged him if he dared to duel one round with him. Sal was amused, and he thought that if Alan's talent from the previous life was stripped from him, he was wondering what his true ability would be. He confidently agreed while thinking that he would take that chance to see Alan's skills, while Alan grinned as he responded that they should bring it on as he thought that it was the perfect chance to pretend to act as if he killed Sal accidentally. The other guys started to gather around Sal and Alan, and as one of them cheered Alan and encouraged him to defeat Sal, another one agreed and remarked that it was right and that they should let Sal see who is the real sword genius. Alan dug his feet on the ground, and he quickly changed to attack Sal, and as Sal blocked his attack, he thought that it was very good and he could win. But to Alan's surprise, Sal was not putting in any effort in the fight that he even yawned, and as he advised him to use more force, he asked him if Hero was not feeding him enough. Sal swung his sword and pushed Alan away. Alan was agitated, and as he yelled and charged forward with his aura-imbued sword, he thought that it was impossible because Hera assured him that no one is his match in his family with his current strength. But Sal effortlessly dodged Alan's attack, and he thought that it was weak that even the magic power imbued onto the sword was thin, and it was obvious that it was artificially enhanced, so it looked like he was worried for nothing because Alan doesn't have swordsmanship talent at all. Alan got anxious when Sal jumped behind him and announced that he would show him what a real strike looks like. Sal's image was reflected on Alan's eyes as he charged forward with his sword. He used his skill, Shadow Blade, thrust third form, and Alan screamed in pain as the attack hit his eye. The other guys quickly ran towards Alan and called him with worry while Alan was writhing and screaming in pain on the ground, and he kept mentioning his eye. Suddenly someone laughed. It was Hugh, and he remarked that it looked like he judged wrongly because Alan's ability was nothing much, and as he asked Leon if those servants he defeated earlier weren't acting, Leon retorted that Hugh was being disrespectful. Hugh half-heartedly apologized and added that after all, Alan and his younger sister are engaged, and he doesn't want his younger sister to be married to a useless man. Leon retorted that Hugh was worrying too much because if the royal family hasn't granted that marriage, no one knows if his sister would even have been able to get married. And as Hugh challenged Leon to repeat that for him, the two of them glared at each other, sparking tension between them. Hugh chose to walk away and mentioned that he won't disturb Leon any further, but he shouldn't forget their two families' joint operation in 10 days and bid him goodbye. Meanwhile, Leon was pissed, and he was thinking that Alan was trash. He asked one of the maids what the little shadow was called, and she replied that his name was Sal, the child of one of his mistresses, but as for which mistress, it wasn't recorded. Leon was amused when he heard that Sal was his son, and as he thought that it was no wonder Sal's sword talent was good, he ordered that the maid should bring Sal to his study room, to which she agreed. Evening came, and a candle was lighting up a room in the palace. Leon's eyes were glowing and he seemed to be intently looking at something. He was looking at Sal, who was kneeling in front of him and asking him what his orders were. Leon thought that he couldn't sense any talent power at all, so he wondered if Sal was intentionally hiding his true ability to steal the position of heir in the future, and he thought that it was crafty, but in the end, Sal was just a little brat, so he was too easy to read. He grabbed a sword by the table and instructed that in 10 days, Sal will lead the Shadow Squad 10 and head towards the Lost Crystal City together with the Isak family to retrieve the dragon egg. Leon handed the sword to Sal and informed him that it was the sword that could activate the teleportation to Crystal City. Sal thought that in order to retrieve the dragon egg, one will anger the demonic dragon within no matter what they do, so Leon must not have good intentions to send him there. He thought that there was no way he could miss the chance to earn a dragon egg, so he accepted the sword and assured him that he would do what his master wished. But Sal requested that he had a request, which made Leon glare at him and inquire about the request. It was morning, and Sal was leading the Shadow Squad 10 with Andrea beside him, riding the offspring of the Griffin. Andrea asked Sal if he didn't inform Leon that she came along to serve him and remarked that it was not appropriate for her to sit all the way there, but Sal responded that it was alright. Sal turned to Renault and Lucien to ask them if they didn't mind, and the two of them were terrified that they immediately replied yes multiple times. When the squad saw a platform, one of them asked if it was the Crystal City, another asked where the crystal and the dragon egg were, and someone stated that they didn't know. Suddenly, someone approached them and commented that they didn't think that the Cooper family's elite team doesn't even have the basic knowledge about Crystal City. It was Gloria Isak, Alan's fiancée, and as she joked about it, one of the members of Shadow Squad 10 was surprised when they recognized her, and another asked her what that was supposed to mean. Gloria ignored them as she approached Sal to confirm if it was him, and she greeted that it was nice to meet him and that he could call her Gloria. But Gloria was pissed when Sal ignored her as he turned to Andrea and instructed that she should stay there with Mio, the little griffin, as he would be out soon, to which Andrea agreed. When Sal started walking up the stairs, Gloria chased after him, and as she rudely called his name, she shouted that she was talking to him. Sal politely addressed Gloria and informed that if they don't activate the portal together before the sun sets, the trip will be wanted, which made Gloria click her tongue. He recalled how Gloria pestered him in the past and suggested that he should train with her, which made him anxious, and he thought that he still met the troublesome woman in the end. Sal grabbed his sword as he thought that it was whatever because he would just pray that the stupid bird Mio could successfully finish the mission given to it. Gloria and Sal both stood at the center of the altar as they drew their sword and pierced it on the ground, which caused the altar to glow, and as one of the Shadow Squad 10 was surprised that it was glowing. One of the Knights explained that the altar is a teleportation formation, and that he was a Cooper bumpkin, to which the kid from Shadow Squad 10 retorted that he should shut up. As the teams got teleported into Crystal City, they were amazed, and as one of them exclaimed that it was what a Crystal City should look like, another marveled that it was beautiful, but they asked if the legendary demonic dragon egg was really in a place like that. Suddenly, one of the Knights thought that he was going to kill those Cooper family soldiers and bring the dragon egg back for the family, and as he moved forward to grab one of the swords on the altar, Sal noticed, and he immediately got alarmed and thought that it was bad. The knight pulled out the sword as he thought that the family head would definitely reward him. Swirling auras suddenly appeared in the sky, and Sal warned that everyone should fall back quickly. Something crashed on the ground, and the impact was powerful that both Sal and Gloria had to protect themselves with their arms. When the dust dissipated, everyone screamed when they saw that they were surrounded, and as one of them recognized that it was the light sentinel that protects Crystal City. Someone shouted that they should prepare to engage while the knight who pulled the sword called for his mommy and pleaded that she save him. Gloria immediately wielded her sword and scorned that the knight was trash. She used her skill, Thorn Slash, to eliminate the light sentinel hovering over the knight, and the knight was surprised. Gloria quickly scolded the knight, and as she asked him who authorized to act on his own, the knight claimed that he did it for the family, but Gloria contended that she thinks that he was doing it for himself. The knight suddenly warned Gloria and alerted that they were behind her as two light sentinels were charging at her from behind, which made Gloria freeze, and all she could do was curse. But Gloria was astonished when multiple slashing auras suddenly eliminated the light sentinels. It was Sal who delivered the attack, but there were still light sentinels surrounding them. Sal raised his sword and commanded that all shadows should heed his command and get into formation. The Shadow Squad 10 immediately answered yes and unsheathed their swords. As they went into formation, they dug their swords on the ground, and shadows started coming out of them. Sal used his sword and directed the shadows. The shadows were directed at the light sentinels, and they let out a confused howl as they got restrained by the shadows. Sal charged forward while releasing his fiery aura, and he thought that he wanted to see where their power of light was stronger or whether their power of shadow would win. He released multiple slashing auras and eliminated all the light sentinels that were restrained. One of the Knights reluctantly noted that the Sentinels have all been defeated, and as another asked if it was the Cooper family, which incorporates magic into swordsmanship, another observed that the one called Sal was just a kid and he was already so powerful. Meanwhile, Gloria was mesmerized and thought that Sal was pretty good. On the other hand, a red crystal slowly began to form. Sal grabbed it when it was finished, and he thought that it was not bad because he absorbed the power of the crystals and immediately rose from Silver Sword Guardian to Gold Sword Master. He thought about the next step and saw a pillar ahead. The pillar has a hole on it that seemed like a slot for the crystal. Everyone watched as Sal placed the red crystal into the hole. As soon as the crystal settled in place, the ground suddenly shook, and one of the kids asked if it was an earthquake. One of them denied and that the altar was descending, which made another advise that they should quickly climb into the altar because the secret passage to the dragon's den was open. Everyone rode the platform as it descended into the ground. The place began to get dark as the platform continued to descend. A few moments later, they landed in a place filled with eggs, and one of them asked if it was the demonic dragon's den. Renault ran around and announced that they don't even need to split the eggs because everyone will get one, while the knight insisted that they should hurry up and bring them back. Gloria was excited as she watched everyone grab an egg while Sal thought that they were idiots and wondered if they were in a rush to feed the demonic dragon. As if right on cue, the demonic dragon let out a ferocious roar as it appeared, and as Renault asked what that thing was, the knight explained that it was the demonic dragon and that it had awakened. Everyone started to run away while Gloria and Sal drew their swords, and as Gloria urged that everyone should stay calm and get ready to fight, Sal offered that he would cover the rear while all of them would take the dragon eggs and leave. But while everyone was preoccupied with the demonic dragon, Lucien was taken aback when the platform started to lift off the ground. The others heard the platform rumble, and as they inquired what the commotion was, they saw Gray, the man with Shadow Squad 10, who was operating the platform with a dragon egg in his arms, and they demanded to know what he was doing. Gray recalled that Leon instructed that he should use the shadows to hold the dragon back, and after he has secured the dragon eggs, he should destroy the teleportation altar because they can't let the Isaac family have a chance while Sal would be on his own. So Gray apologized to everyone and declared that the Empire could only have one family that possesses the dragon egg, and that is the Cooper family. As the platform continued to rise up, Gray proclaimed that the others should sacrifice themselves for the family as he was out of there, and the others shouted that he was an asshole, demanding that he come back right that instant. On the other hand, some people were still charging forward. It was Gloria and Sal, and Gloria remarked that the Cooper family head is truly ruthless for abandoning not just them but all of the shadows as well, but Sal replied that it was within his expectations. While the demonic dragon started gathering its aura on its mouth, the two of them continued to charge forward, and as Gloria got surprised when she heard what Sal commented, she asked him if he rushed in there to throw away his life, but Sal retorted that she was thinking too much. The demonic dragon released its powerful breath, and both Gloria and Sal were able to dodge it. Sal went and cut off one of the demonic dragon's wings and exclaimed that he wouldn't be dying there. The demonic dragon was enraged by what Sal did, and it quickly turned its attention on Sal. It swung its arms to hit Sal, and Gloria chased after Sal, who was sent flying. Sal was lying on the ground, and as the demonic dragon loomed over him and prepared to launch another breath, Gloria called his name while running towards him. The demonic dragon released its powerful breath, and someone used their skill, Moonshine Sword Shield. It was Gloria, and as she protected Sal, she questioned him why he went and uttered those big words and if he was alright. Sal slowly stood up and stated that he was fine and that Gloria should help him delay the demonic dragon's actions first, as he would take the chance to attack its heart. He pleaded with Gloria and emphasized that she was the only one who could do it, which enthralled Gloria, and she agreed. Gloria proudly charged forward, as she thought that she was a gifted swordswoman too, so she couldn't let Sal look down on her. But suddenly, Sal's expression turned dark, and he smiled sinisterly. After Gloria distracted the demonic dragon, she called Sal and instructed that it was time to attack. But Sal didn't move, so she demanded to know what he was standing for when he should attack. When there was no response from Sal, Gloria cursed in her mind as she wondered if Sal fell too hard earlier and had no energy left to attack, and she thought that if that continued, they were all going to die, so she could only use a certain move. Gloria released a powerful aura, and she swirled it around as she used her skill, Sword Dance of Destruction. The demonic dragon howled in pain as Gloria's attack landed on multiple parts of its body. It fell into the ground with a loud thud, and Gloria inquired if she did it. Lucien and Renault quickly ran towards the demonic dragon, and while pretending to be brave, they attacked it, and Lucien boasted that the stupid dragon should have a taste of his power. Gloria looked both relieved and confused as she pondered if she did it. But suddenly, the demonic dragon's eyes lit up, and both Renault and Lucien's images were reflected on it. As the demonic dragon stood back up, Lucien ran away terrified, while Renault was alarmed and warned that the demonic dragon has entered its berserk phase, so they should find somewhere to hide quickly. Gloria was horrified, and she questioned how it was possible while Sal was still standing still behind her. Suddenly, Sal pulled his necklace and challenged what they claimed about hiding. The necklace transformed into a sword, and Sal used his swordsmanship inheritance, third skill. Sal looked at the demonic dragon intently as he used his skill, Blood Shadow Slash. The blood of the demonic dragon started to flow out of its body through the wounds that Gloria caused. Sal raised his sword, and the demonic dragon's blood started gathering around it. He condensed the Blood Shadow Slash and created clones of himself using the demonic dragon's blood. Lucien was taken aback, and as he asked if Sal transformed the demonic dragon's blood into his clones, Renault pointed out that not only that, he noticed that Sal suddenly changed into a new holy grade treasure sword, and when the knight wondered if it could be blood magic, Gloria confirmed yes, it was, and as forbidden magic. The Empire only allows the Cooper family head to use it against enemies on the battlefield, and she thought that she had heard that the sword demon in the Cooper family had disappeared, so she began speculating, but she trailed off. Gloria suddenly realized something, and she asked if Sal intentionally stood back and waited for her to draw the demonic dragon's blood. She exclaimed that Sal was a bastard because he actually used her, and as Sal charged forward with his clones, he scoffed and remarked that it was not important if it did. Sal and his clones jumped to attack the demonic dragon, and he thought that he was an abandoned pawn in his previous life, so in that life, he won't sit idly and await his demise. The demonic dragon's head was cut off. Everyone ran towards Sal, and Gloria explained that it was not bad because the demonic dragon had finally been defeated. But Sal suddenly pointed his sword at Gloria and stated that they shouldn't come near. Sal coughed, and his eyes were bloodshot. A dark aura came out of the sword, and as it swirled around Sal, Gloria called his name. They were unaware that the sword demon's spirit was restraining Sal, and as he asked Sal if he had mentioned he could rest easy after killing him, he explained that Sal would become like him, who needed to eat more flesh and blood to maintain his strength. Gloria and the others were taken aback by what was happening to Sal. Meanwhile, the sword demon declared that Sal was a little mouse and that he should go because they were his prey and he should have fun killing them. Sal charged forward, and as he requested more blood, everyone ran, except for Gloria, and Lucien remarked that it was not good because Sal had overused blood magic and had been demonized. He called for help and suggested they should run, but Andrea suddenly summoned San and advised that he shouldn't. Sal recognized Andrea as she blocked his path and attempted to heal him. He collapsed on the ground, and Andrea called out his name. Andrea dove inside Sal's consciousness and reached out to grab him as he fell into the pool of blood. A few moments later, they were out of the demonic dragon's lair, and Andrea was calling Sal's name, advising that he should wake up. Sal regained his consciousness, and as he recognized Andrea mentioned that it was great he was finally awake because she had used purification on him so he wouldn't be demonized in the meantime, and the others were fine too. Andrea excitedly ran to grab something. She proudly showed the dragon egg to Sal while Gray was being restrained behind her, and she assured that it was completely fine and was the only remaining dragon egg. Andrea revealed that she hadn't told the Isak family about the dragon egg, and Gloria had already left with her team, so Sal didn't have to worry about not completing the mission, and he should cheer up. Sal thanked Andrea, but he mentioned that he was not worried about that. He stated that originally, Mia was supposed to take Andrea to a prearranged location and lie about her accidental death so that she could leave the family, but he hadn't expected such a thing. Sal asked Mio if he couldn't even do such a simple thing and called him a stupid bird, insisting that he should die. Mio responded that it was not his fault because Andrea was worried about Sal and had insisted on entering the secret realm. And while Andrea advised that Sal shouldn't be rash and that they should talk it out, Sal noted that Mio's wings had gotten harder and he had learned to talk back to him. Suddenly, Renault summoned Sal. Renault and Lucien charged forward with their swords. Sal chuckled and remarked that they had finally shown their true colors and inquired if they were going to snatch the dragon egg away from him. But he was surprised when he saw that Renault and Lucien ran past him. Renault and Lucien plunged their swords into Gray from behind, and Sal was puzzled. Suddenly, everyone knelt in front of Sal. Renault addressed Sal as a young master, and as he requested that he forgive their rudeness earlier, he explained that if it hadn't been for Sal saving them, who had been abandoned by the family, they would have already been dead. Lucien added that from that point onward, they would no longer listen to the family and vowed to unwaveringly follow Sal until their deaths, and the others pledged the same. Sal was moved by what everyone had expressed, and he was about to respond, but he was cut off. Andrea summoned Sal and advised that he should look because the dragon egg was hatching. The egg began to crack. A demonic dragon emerged from the egg, and Andrea was amazed, stating that a dragon had hatched. Sal quickly applied his aura to the demonic dragon, and as he explained that demonic dragons would only obey the strongest, he asked the demonic dragon if he was going to accept him as his master. The demonic dragon agreed. Renault expressed that it was great the demonic dragon had been tamed. Everyone congratulated Sal for taming the demonic dragon, and they announced that from that day onward, Sal Cooper's rebel force against the family was born. A few days passed, and everyone was back at the palace. Inside Leon's office, Alan asked Hira when he could go to the horse racing tracks, and Hira informed him that he could go when Leon was done with his work. Leon yelled and stated that Alan should go because all he did was enjoy himself all day long. He declared that Alan was worse than a bastard child and questioned if he knew that Sal had not only slain a demonic dragon but also tamed its offspring. Hira explained that it was not Alan's fault, and as she asked Leon why he was mad at Alan, she mentioned that if Alan had left, he would have definitely tamed the demonic dragon, and Alan agreed. She advised that Leon should forget it because she had nothing more to say to Leon, and as she called Alan and suggested that they should go because she would accompany him to the race tracks that day, Alan agreed. Hira and Alan walked out of the office and shut the door behind them. Alan immediately ran and requested that they quickly bring him his horsewhip. Meanwhile, Hira inquired how the research on deprivation magic was going. Doug assured Hira that she shouldn't worry because they had successfully completed the research and were only waiting to find a test subject with S-rank talent, and once they had ensured that it was possible, they would immediately use it on Sal. Hira responded that it was not bad and that she would definitely get rid of the brat Sal at that time. 5 years later, Andrea used her skill on Sal, and she stated that after that, he would be fully purified. Andrea assured that Sal would not be demonized in the future and could use the sword technique as much as he wanted, and Sal thanked her. But Andrea replied no. She mentioned that it was her who should thank Sal for giving her such a wonderful staff. Suddenly, a shadowy figure ran past the window, and Sal was surprised. Sal immediately opened the window, and as he asked who was there, he explained that it had already escaped. But the figure clearly belonged to the housekeeper. Suddenly, Renault and Lucien arrived, and as Renault called Sal, Lucien reported that the task he assigned already had a result. Lucien reported that they had secretly trailed the housekeeper and discovered that he had been recruiting a group of magic mages, and he seemed to be preparing to conduct a ritual in 3 days. Renault stated that the housekeeper had even mentioned to the magic mages that they were finally finding another target with S-rank talent, and that their magic abilities were very high. Sal wondered whether they were about to begin the deprivation magic ritual, why they hadn't targeted him directly, and why they were finding another target with S-rank talent. He stated that the target with extremely high magic abilities was Andrea. 3 days later, Andrea was in the storage room, and she sighed and mentioned that it was a mess again, so she should just use magic to clean everything up. Suddenly, Doug appeared behind Andrea. He quickly covered her mouth and grabbed her arms to prevent her from escaping. Doug explained that Andrea had fainted, so they should go. A few moments later, they began the ritual, and the magic mages declared that the powers of the night should hear their command from the abyss of the heart that was condensed in their palm. They kept chanting, and they declared that they would transfer the power to their control and the power would floor, following them like a shadow. Doug stated that as long as the blood of Andrea's heart was mixed into the formation, her talent would be his. But Andrea disappeared when Doug stabbed her, and he asked what was going on. Andrea explained that it was illusion magic. Doug was surprised when he saw Andrea behind him, and Andrea warned that he shouldn't underestimate her. Andrea used her skill, Shining Star Lock. She restrained Doug, and he cursed and remarked that Andrea was quite tricky. Doug asked the magic mages why they were all just standing there, and as he mentioned they should take Andrea down, the magic mages affirmed. On the other hand, Andrea recalled that Sal told her to close her eyes after that and not to hear or see anything. Meanwhile, a huge shadow loomed over Doug, and the magic mages asked what it was and what that sound was. One of the magic mages reported that it was a dragon and a griffin, and the other asked how that could be and why there were suddenly monsters. Mio began devouring the magic mages it encountered, and one of them asked for help while the dragon was scorching the magic mages it encountered. Doug stated that it was a demonic dragon and a griffin, and as he suspected that it was Sal arrived and explained that Doug had even dared to touch Andrea, so he must be tired of living. Doug confirmed his suspicion and stated that it was Sal when he saw him. Sal instructed Doug to speak and asked him why he targeted Andrea. Doug explained that it was because deprivation magic could only be used once on a target, and to ensure that Alan would receive Sal's talent, they had to find a human test subject, and he requested that Sal spare his life because he was just following orders. Sal stated that Andrea was in danger because of him. He stated that he could let Doug go, but Sal suddenly cut his hand. Doug screamed when Sal began performing a ritual, and he asked if it was the Shadow Oath. Sal instructed Doug to go back and tell Hira that the deprivation magic ceremony was successful and could be conducted on him immediately, otherwise he should know what would happen to him. Doug asked why, and Sal explained that naturally it was to expose Alan's true colors. The next day, while Doug talked to Hira and announced that the deprivation experiment had succeeded, Alan addressed Gloria as a beautiful miss and asked if she wanted to tour the garden with him, but Gloria responded that he should get lost. On the other hand, Hira inquired if Doug was certain, and Doug confirmed that he was absolutely certain, noting that the upcoming full moon coincided with Alan's coming-of-age ceremony, making it the perfect time to act. Hira expressed approval and acknowledged that Doug had done well. She mentioned that her long-cherished wish was finally coming true as she would surely make Alan the future head of the family, but she refuted this by stating that Alan would be the future strongest man in the empire. Meanwhile, Alan asked Gloria if she was playing hard to get and lamented that it was a shame because he had seen through it. He reflected that Hira had mentioned she should ask him to get closer to his fiancée, and wondered which lady wouldn't want to be with him. But Alan was surprised when Gloria pointed her sword at him upon hearing his question about her playing hard to get. Gloria questioned Alan if a useless young master like him was worthy of becoming his fiancé, and Alan pondered whether she was mentally ill. She declared that Alan would have to defeat her first, and as she raised her sword, Alan suggested that someone should come and drag her away. Suddenly, as Sal apologized and explained that he was busy that day, Alan wondered how that could be and why Gloria was intimate with Sal. As Gloria clicked her tongue and remarked that not everyone was qualified to train with her, advising Sal to think again, Alan wondered if it could be that Gloria liked Sal. Alan was about to confront Sal about him and his fiancée, Gloria, but Hira suddenly called Alan and informed him that he should come back, so Alan replied that he should just forget it because after he marries Gloria in the future, he would take care of her properly. Alan mentioned that since Gloria was not willing to accept his request that day, he would take his leave, and Gloria bid him goodbye. Gloria stated that since the annoying person was gone, if Sal didn't agree to train with her, she would attack him immediately. Consequently, Sal agreed but insisted that Gloria had to promise him one thing too, so Gloria prompted him to speak. Sal requested that Gloria introduce him to her brother, Hugh, and Gloria appeared puzzled. Evening arrived, and as Sal met Hugh, he revealed that he had a way to cancel Gloria and Alan's engagement. But he hoped that Hugh could lend him the Isaac family's heirloom, the illusionary time box. Sal recalled that in his previous life, Hugh was not satisfied with the playboy Alan, and was also unwilling to ally himself with the Cooper family. He remembered that Hugh had repeatedly proposed canceling the engagement but was constantly rejected by the royal family, so in that life, he had to take advantage of the situation. But Hugh regarded Sal as an arrogant kid and questioned him if an engagement blessed by the royal family was something that could be cancelled by someone like him, challenging him for daring to discuss conditions. Sal pulled his necklace and asked Hugh what kind of person he was. He explained that only someone like him could solve Hugh's problems. Hugh immediately recognized the sword and wondered if the real child in the Cooper family with the S-rank talent was Sal. Sal stated that since the engagement couldn't be cancelled, they just had to destroy the trash young master, and he asked Hugh if that wasn't the same. He inquired about Hugh's thoughts on it, and Hugh was left speechless. 1 month later, at the palace, it was time for Alan's coming-of-age ceremony. Hugh contacted Hera and informed her that everything was ready except for Sal, who was not among the bastards. Therefore, Alan went to search for him, and Hera acknowledged that she knew, advising Hugh to go and help Alan, to which Hugh immediately agreed. Meanwhile, one of the Cooper family bastard children expressed confusion about why they were called there and asked if they were emphasizing Alan's status as the heir so that they could be his untroubled servants. Another sighed and explained that Alan had the swordsmanship talent, so he was fated to become the future family head. Another shushed them, advising them to quiet down and not let Leon hear them. On the other hand, one of Leo's attendants mentioned that the guests were all seated to avoid making them wait for long. They had followed Leo's instructions to begin, and Leon agreed. Suddenly, Hugh appeared and mentioned that it was a coincidence. He asked Leon if he would care to talk, but Leon responded that he didn't remember inviting Hugh, as Hugh explained that it was his future brother-in-law's coming-of-age ceremony, and that he would definitely come to enjoy the excitement. Sal stated that everyone had arrived, so it was time to activate the illusionary time box, and Lucien agreed. Lucien quickly disappeared from the area. A few moments later, Sal Cooper's rebel forces began activating the illusionary time box, and they summoned the gates of the abyss and the shadow-woven fantasy. They activated the illusionary time box, declaring that its virtual realm should open. A huge magic circle was immediately cast on the Cooper family's palace. Meanwhile, while Sal awaited the unfolding events, Alan suddenly announced that he had finally found him. Alan questioned Sal about why he was hiding alone there. Sal was dragged into the dark basement. He was chained on a cross, and Alan apologized as he drew his dagger. Alan explained Sal's swordsmanship talent would be his. Blood was spilled, and it splattered all over the place. Alan stated it was Sal's real fate. Suddenly, Andrea screamed Sal's name as she woke up from her dream. She was in the middle of work, and as one of her colleagues mentioned she should stop napping and get to work, she agreed yes. Andrea used her skill, Power of the Stars, and she claimed what she saw wasn't a dream, it was reality from a previous life. Power of the Stars was one of the talents awakened by a time mage who could spy into the past and future through time fragments, and Andrea asserted Sal was in danger. Andrea rushed back to the palace and called Sal. She announced she had to stop Alan before he made his move. Andrea saw Alan when he handed a wine to Sal and declared it was awarded to him by Leon, and she revealed she found Sal. She immediately used her skill and proclaimed by the light of tranquility and the power of the stars, Alan would fall into a deep slumber, and she intended to make Alan sleep for a few months first. But Hera recognized Andrea. Hera commanded one of her men and instructed him to take Andrea away, and that he shouldn't make too much noise, and the man acknowledged yes. The man quickly restrained Andrea and covered her mouth. Hera pondered if Doug didn't indicate that the deprivation magic was successful, and why Andrea was still able to use magic. But she decided he should just forget it because it was not the time to think about it as the deprivation ceremony was more urgent. Sal drank the wine Alan gave him. He quickly dropped the glass, and the rest of the wine was spilled on the ground. Alan mocked Sal as he fell for the same trick twice. A few moments later, Sal was chained in the basement, and Alan questioned him who he thought he was to possess an S-rank talent. Alan inquired Sal who he thought he was to possess a demonic dragon. He also asked Sal who he thought he was to gain Gloria's favor. Alan asserted all those should have belonged to him. Hera remarked Alan should stop wasting time talking to Sal and they should get started, and Alan consented yes. Doug handed a dagger to Alan and explained it was specially forged to temporarily pierce through Sal's invincible body, and Alan acknowledged it was not bad. Alan apologized to Sal and claimed his swordsmanship was his. He stated it was Sal's fate, and as he dug the dagger into Sal's chest, Sal coughed up blood and screamed in pain. Alan remarked Sal should cry and scream because, from that point onward, he was the true worthy heir of the Cooper family, and he would possess the strongest talents and abilities, and no one would stand above him. He noticed that Sal was trembling. Sal suddenly burst out laughing and mocked Alan if he was performing for a play or something. Both Hera and Alan were surprised that Sal was fine. Sal effortlessly broke the chains and got out of the restraints. He advised they should open their eyes and see clearly whose fate it was. Sal snapped his fingers. In an instant, the illusion disappeared, and both Hera and Alan were surprised that they were surrounded by the guests. The two of them looked around, and they were surprised when they realized that it was the banquet hall. One of the guests accused them of being crazy and expressed he didn't think that they would do such a thing in front of everyone. Another guest remarked they didn't expect the young master of the Cooper family to be such a person. Another questioned if it meant that the legends about Alan having an S-rank talent were false, to which another guest affirmed it was definitely, and as another guest criticized it was disgusting, and inquired if that kind of person was truly worthy of being an heir. Someone asserted they would make a better heir than Alan. Hira declared it was impossible and wondered how the brat, Sal, knew that they were going to do that to him. She speculated if the trial wasn't a success and where it all went wrong. But she restrained herself and stated what was important at the moment was how to salvage the situation. Alan claimed the guests were all being tricked because the trash Sal was trying to frame him, to which Hira agreed, but as she was about to elaborate further, she was cut off. Hugh cut Hira off by clapping his hands. He described it as an exciting show, and he queried Leon if he didn't agree. Leon was enraged as he called Alan. Alan was about to reason with Leon, but Hira cut him off and stated she ordered Alan to do it so Leon should punish her. But Leon hit Alan, and Hira called out Alan's name while he was sent flying. Sal remarked that Leon was ruthless. Alan asked what he did wrong and stated Sal was a mere bastard child, so everything Sal had should have been his, but Hira instructed that he should stop talking. One of the guests recalled Leo's origin and stated Leon relied on his own strength to rise to the top, and although he never avoided the issue in public, as his son, they questioned how Alan could point it out in front of outsiders. Another mentioned the Duke loves to upkeep his appearances, and as she clicked her tongue, she asserted Alan was foolish. Suddenly, Leon asked Alan if that was the case. Leon declared that all of his offspring should hear his command that the succession contest shall begin that day. When the bastards heard about the succession contest, they asked if it meant that all of them have the right to compete to become the heir, using any means necessary. They declared that there are no rules and the winner takes all, so they should kill Alan first. Hugh laughed, and as he asked if it was the legendary Cooper family spirit that is above all else, he stated that he had finally witnessed it that day. He stated that since things had come to that point, they should cancel the engagement between the two families because he didn't want his sister to marry a lying and weak man. Leon stated that everything that had just happened was caused by the power of the illusionary time box, so there was no doubt that Hugh had allied with Sal. He stated that all the nobles were present, so if any rumors reached the ears of the royal family, it would only be detrimental to the Cooper family, so it was better to step back first and deal with Hugh in the future. Leon stated that Hugh shouldn't worry because he would send a request to the king and give him an explanation, and Hugh remarked that, as expected of the head of the Cooper family, Leon was wise. Leon stated that as for the brat Sal, he could fight for the title of the heir, but he could not do anything that harms the reputation of the family. He threatened that if Sal did otherwise, he would make him disappear, but Sal just clicked his tongue. Sal asked Leon if he had stated he cared about that position. He stated that if Leon wanted to make him disappear, he suggested that he do it immediately. Leon to question them about why she even needed to tell them that, but she trailed off. She realized something. Hira stated that Andrea was indeed using magic earlier, so either the deprivation test didn't work or it didn't even happen. She quickly turned towards Doug, and Doug was startled. Hira asked Doug if he stripped Andrea of her talent, and as she suggested that he show it to her immediately, Doug responded that Andrea's talent was too advanced, so he hadn't mastered it yet, and he requested that Hira give him a few more days. Doug asked Hira if he realized the truth, but Hira stated that there was no need, and she called her men and commanded that they should execute Doug on the spot, to which the men immediately affirmed. Doug immediately requested that Hira let him explain and added that Sal had forced him, but he was not able to finish his explanation. Blood was spilled, and it spurted all over the place. Hira stated that a dog betrayed its master, and the master killed the dog, so there was nothing there to explain. She went to Andrea and stated that Andrea might as well give her talent to her, as she had to make the best use of everything. Hira released her aura as she grabbed Andrea's throat, and Andrea groaned in pain. But Hira saw that there were no burn marks on Andrea after what she did. She wondered if Andrea could have an ice soul body. Hira stated that girls with an ice soul body who had come of age could become hotbeds, and men who became a couple with a hotbed could improve their strength through her. Meanwhile, Andrea was in tears as she struggled to breathe under Hira's grasp. Sal stated he didn't expect that even after displaying Alan's garbage talent and inferior nature, it was still not enough to make Leon determined to get rid of him, and he wondered if it was because Leon was afraid of the power behind Hira. He explained Hira arranged for him to stay under the castle last night, and as he wondered if Hira wanted to control him and was afraid of him escaping. He snickered in his mind and declared he would never leave before letting Alan taste all the pain he had suffered. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door, and as Sal remarked it was early and wondered if it was Andrea, he suggested she should come in as the door was not locked. It was Gloria, and she mentioned Hugh had mentioned that Sal would be returning the item that day, and since she was free, she came directly. Sal stated if he could gain the Isaac family's support, perhaps he would be able to directly kill Alan. but his thoughts were interrupted when Gloria asked him what he was thinking about when she was right there in front of him. Sal explained he was thinking about why a family on the same level as the Cooper family would consider something that could only create illusion under strict conditions to be their heirloom. Gloria asked Sal if he wanted to know, and as she explained she wouldn't tell him without anything in return. She stated no one believes that legend anyway, and all the nobles already knew about it, so she could use it to make Sal owe her a favor. But Sal immediately threw her out of the room and bid goodbye. Gloria was pissed, and she declared she wanted to fight with Sal, and Sal was unamused. A few moments later, Gloria and Sal stood in the arena. Gloria quickly lunged forward and attacked Sal, but Sal was able to block her sword. Sal managed to swing his sword and push Gloria's sword away. He declared Gloria lost again, and Gloria scoffed as she stated he was not a gentleman at all. Sal explained it was Gloria who wanted him to use his full strength, and as per their agreement, she had to tell him the illusionary time box's secret. And as Gloria stated it was just actually a legend and no one knew whether it was real or fake and no one had ever made it happen. Sal asked what the legend was. Gloria stated according to legend, if one gains the recognition of the power of the stars and masters the illusionary time box, one could sacrifice their entire life to let someone be reborn. Sal wondered if it was Andrea who sacrificed her life in exchange for his rebirth, and he declared in that life, he not only had to take revenge but he had to take good care of Andrea as well, so he couldn't let the bastard Alan get the chance. Suddenly, Sal's thoughts were interrupted when Renault and Lucien called him and reported there was bad news, that Andrea had been captured. Sal was surprised, and as he asked them who captured Andrea, he declared they should speak clearly. They reported during the operation last night, someone saw Andrea captured by Hera and some servants in the forest. Gloria stated, speaking of which, that morning, she seemed to have heard that Andrea became a personal maid of a young master and would become his mistress when she got older. She mentioned the young master they were referring to was Sal and asked if it was not. Sal quickly ran away and declared Alan was courting death, and when Gloria saw that, she asked Renault and Lucien what the two of them were standing there for, and she stated they should follow Sal because his gaze didn't look like he was going to rescue someone but to kill, and the two of them immediately said yes. On the other hand, Alan cursed Sal and declared he would make him suffer the most terrible death for humiliating him in front of so many nobles, and one of his attendants requested that he calm down because Hera had said something about him coming of age. But Alan kicked the attendant and commanded he should go to hell. The other attendant mentioned he heard that Sal liked Andrea, whom Hera captured, very much, and as he suggested that Alan make Andrea pay for Sal, Alan snickered and stated the attendant was quite smart. Alan declared Andrea was his future mistress, so he would ensure that she would become a worthy concubine under his care. Andrea wondered what she should do when her magic had been sealed by those chains. She declared she couldn't resist at all, and as she wondered where Sal was, she pleaded in her mind that he save her. Alan clicked his tongue and stated, looking at Andrea's pathetic state, he was wondering what face Sal would make when he saw her humiliated as his slave and that Andrea should accept her fate and become his mistress. Suddenly, Sal called Alan's name and punched him immediately in the face. Alan screamed in pain as he was sent flying while Andrea called Sal, but he didn't hear her. Sal kicked Alan in the groin and declared he should die. Alan screamed in pain again. Sal bombarded Alan with punches and declared he should die. Alan broke his shoulder and his ribs in the process. Sal was ominous as he loomed over Alan, and Alan asked for help. The other attendants stated they should hurry and save Alan quickly, but they all screamed in pain as they got sent flying by Sal's aura. On the other hand, while Renault and Lucien tried to call Sal and they reported something was wrong, Gloria went and ran towards Andrea. Gloria quickly removed the chains that were restraining Andrea. She declared Andrea should hurry because Sal was demonizing again. Andrea quickly hugged Sal from behind. She called his name, and as she declared he should wake up because she was fine, Sal came back to his senses and recognized her. Meanwhile, the attendants stated they should take Alan away quickly. Hera suddenly arrived, and she was horrified when she saw Alan. She declared Sal was a bastard, and she asked him if it was how he repays Leon for bringing him into the castle. Without responding, Sal grabbed his necklace. Andrea was worried for Sal as he marched forward with his sword in his hand. Hera immediately asked Sal what he was doing. Sal still did not respond, and he sliced his hand with his sword. He declared he would challenge Alan to a holy battle to the death, and he declared he would never let the unpredictable factor who threatens Andrea exist ever. 7 days later, Sal and Alan met at the dueling arena, and everyone gathered to watch. Sal declared that he didn't expect Alan to not run away after delaying for 7 days. Alan inquired of Sal why he would give up a chance to squash a stink bug like him. Sal pondered that the shield gave him a bad feeling when someone announced that the battle would officially begin. Alan called Medusa and used her move, Petrification Laser. He laughed and queried if the Gold Swordmaster, in reality, was a dancing monkey. Sal considered that the Shadow Oath wouldn't make him immune to Medusa's attack because an abnormal status like petrification doesn't count as damage, so there is no way to transfer it via Shadow Oath. He reflected that he must destroy the shield when Alan questioned him if he didn't expect that and stated that he stole his sword of Perseus, but obtained the shield of Medusa instead. Alan remarked that it was the difference between a child of destiny and a rebellious person. Alan repeatedly asserted that it was useless, and he laughed maniacally. Sal jumped in the air to attack Alan while Alan called Medusa. Medusa's shield immediately moved in front of Alan. She opened her eyes, but Sal slashed Medusa's eyes and green blood squirted out of it. While Medusa's shield twirled in pain and squirted out blood from its eyes, Sal raised his petrified sword. The petrified parts of the sword started to clear up and crumble. Sal pronounced that Alan should die. He swung his sword as he went past Alan. One of Alan's rings broke. He smiled sinisterly. Alan laughed and mentioned that he almost forgot that he was a golden staff mage at the moment. He used his curse art's corruption and voiced that the vengeful souls should devour everything. On the other hand, Hugh suddenly observed that Alan was a bastard and noted that it was vile black magic that could only be mastered using the souls of 1,000 commoners who died painfully. Hugh proclaimed that he wanted an explanation, but Leon indicated that it was his family's secret, so he would request that Hugh respect the noble's tradition. Back into the fight, Alan laughed maniacally, and as he exclaimed that Sal was a fool, he wondered if Sal was actually not dodging and commented that he should enjoy the wailing pain in that case. Alan demanded if it didn't work and insisted that it was impossible because he had tested that move a few hundred times and no one should be able to resist the magic and avoid corruption. He spat that Sal was a bastard and that he should go to hell. The vengeful spirits all gathered and enclosed Sal in a dark aura, but they all disappeared, and while Alan surmised that it was impossible and wondered why his attacks were ineffective, Sal uttered that after Alan had struggled enough, he could die. Alan laughed and maintained that Sal was a fool because he was his shadow. He probed Sal how he could hurt him. Suddenly, one of the shadows screamed in pain, and another pressed how that was possible. Sal cursed in his mind as he realized that he forgot that Alan's shadow oath could transfer fatal damage to other shadows, and when Alan noticed Sal's reaction, he challenged Sal if he actually cared about those bastards' lives. Alan used his black magic, Life Scepter, and he reckoned that although he didn't know why the shadow oath on Sal became ineffective, Sal would definitely not escape that magic. He laughed and affirmed that in that case, he would use the Shadow's life force to showcase his move, Life Scepter. Lucien complained about his life force while Andrea called him and Renault and requested what happened to them. Alan laughed, and as he interrogated Sal if he had given up resisting, he conveyed that it was a shame because he would not stop punishing those bastards. Sal dug his sword on the ground. Recalling the fights he encountered, Sal professed that he refused to become an animal like Alan. Sal used his skill, Forbidden Magic, Blood Formation. He released a blood-like aura and destroyed Alan's scepter. At that instance, Lucien expressed that their life force were all back, and Renault signified that it was Sal and praised their boss. Suddenly, a dragon flew over the dueling arena, which worried the other shadows. The dragon broke through the protective orb of the dueling arena with ease. Sal prophesied that Alan should enjoy his breath because it would be his last. Sal declared that it turned out that the dragon was that mad too. Meanwhile, Hugh stated that it was the dragon armor, and as he inquired if the legend could really be true, Gloria questioned him what he was talking about. Hugh remarked that it was mentioned that if the dragon race could attune their will with their master, under the influence of intense emotions, they could completely alter their form and greatly enhance their master's abilities. On the other hand, Sal's dragon has transformed and has given him sharp shoulder pads. The dragon also wrapped around Sal's fingers. It protected his knees next. Lastly, the dragon fused with Sal's sword. Hugh commented that it was known as the dragon armor. Alan uttered that it was absolutely impossible because even if Sal had received the acknowledgement of that little beast, it was impossible for the two of them to synchronize their hearts and minds. He insisted that it must be illusion magic, so he would shatter the illusion immediately. Alan used his great forbidden magic and directed it at Sal. Sal voiced that what made their will connect together was their wrath towards Alan. He moved swiftly and eliminated the monster that Alan created with multiple slashing attacks. Alan panicked when he saw that Sal already charged towards him. He screamed in pain and opined that it was painful, and Sal revealed that the slash was for the innocent people whose talents Alan had stolen. Hera screamed Alan's name, but Leon called her and announced that she should sit down. Back into the fight, Alan expressed that Sal was a bastard. Sal continued to charge forward. He passed through the monster and indicated that it was for the shadow who died for Alan and for him, whose talent Alan stole and used to death in the previous life. Sal contended that it was for all the evil deeds Alan has done in the past, present, and future. He clarified that Alan should go to hell. Suddenly, a bead blocked Sal's sword. Leon queried Hera what she was doing and reasoned that it was his Cooper family's most sacred duel of life and death, while Alan whined and concluded that it was painful. On the other hand, Hugh recounted that Hera is indeed an S-rank mage who was stunning in the past, but unfortunately, after she married Leon, she was never seen in battle again, and he never expected to have the honor of witnessing it that day. Gloria observed that Hera actually used the help or magical artifacts to cast an 8th ring spell like the Holy Shield, and as she wondered if the rumor that Hera was injured by the backlash of magic when she assassinated the former family head was true, Hugh shushed her and summarized that she should watch the show. Back in the fight, Hera used his skill, 9th ring magic, Holy Spear, and she spelled out that if she had known that Sal would become such a monster, she would have killed him when he was a baby, so she was going to correct that mistake at that moment, and Sal must die that day. Suddenly Leon yelled and communicated that all of them should stop. Hera's Holy Spear immediately crumbled. Sal's dragon armor crumbled as well. Hugh specified that it was as expected of the Silent Sword Saint Leon, and that the move Magic Restraining Ripple was simply invincible. Leon took a step into the arena. He conveyed that the Cooper family doesn't welcome Sal, so he should take his people and leave, and Sal enumerated that Leon would regret that. Hera called Leon and urged that he should let her kill him, but Leon continued and responded that Sal should get out of his territory before he changed his mind. Sal explained that they would leave. A few moments later, Sal and his people traveled along the grassy plains. Sal reiterated that there was no need for Hugh to leave with them, but Hugh recapped that they should be straightforward and pressed Sal if he was interested in joining the Isak family, to which Sal replied and interrogated Hugh if he did not mind him being exiled from the family and if he intended to declare war on the Cooper family. Hugh was lost for words when he heard what Sal professed. Sal spelled out that although he can't join Hugh's family, he could make a deal with him, and as Hugh demanded what kind of deal it was, Sal recounted that the king is gravely ill and a war between nobles is imminent, so if he could successfully enter the Imperial Academy, Hugh would likely be the first to receive the latest news from the capital, to which Hugh signified that Sal was quite calculative and probed if he wanted him to help him enroll in the Imperial Academy, and why he should trust him. Sal pondered that since his swordsmanship talent is S rank, it was the perfect time for him to use his trump card. He affirmed that it was because he would become the direct disciple of the hidden sword saint, Chris. On the other hand, Chris was drunk and he lay on the floor of the palace. Chris cursed and quizzed who the hell talked about him behind his back. Many days later, at the outskirts of St. Gordon City, Hugh inquired Sal if he could see those 3 towers up ahead and remarked that they are the strongest defenses of St. Gordon City, the Holy Trinity magic towers, and seeing them meant that they were not far away from the city. Hugh stated that St. Gordon City is filled with nobles, so Sal must be careful outside of school. He kept yapping, and Sal considered that Hugh is not trustworthy because, for the sake of his family's interests, he has done plenty of backstabbing, so he has to handle that matter himself and find an opportunity to break away from the group. Hugh declared that Sal shouldn't worry because he will settle everything regarding the Imperial Academy, but Andrea will have to endure a little inconvenience by enrolling as Sal's maid because that way, the two of them could live together legitimately, and as for Sal's guards, he will settle them in his Isak family estate as they could help protect the estate and deal with any bandits. Things like that. When Sal heard about the bandits, he wondered if there were bandits near the imperial capital as well and surmised that there was an opportunity. Hugh noted that they might be called bandits, but they are really just the subordinates of the St. Gordon's nobles, who were quite a troublesome bunch, and as Sal mentioned that Hugh should leave the bandits to him, Hugh questioned about Andrea. Sal voiced that he would trouble Hugh to send Andrea to the Imperial Academy's School of Magic. Gloria called Hugh inquisitively, and Hugh announced that they should first take care of Sal's subordinates and settle them in the manor. A few moments later, Sal went deep in the forest and observed a building from a distance. Sal pondered that according to Angela's own account from her previous life, she should be around 7 years old at the moment, and she is secretly imprisoned in that bandit hideout. He reflected that Angela's father, Chris, has been desperately searching for her and is willing to spare no expense. Sal believed that if he saved Angela, he would be able to successfully become Chris' disciple. His dragon transformed and started wrapping around him. Sal wore his full dragon armor as he prepared himself to raid the bandit hideout. Meanwhile, the bandits trained in the open area. Suddenly, Sal's huge shadow loomed over them, and their instructor noticed it. In an instant, the soldiers that trained got their throats slashed. Sal used his swordsmanship inheritance first skill, a flash of blood and shadows. He charged deeper into the hideout and used his swordsmanship inheritance second skill. Sal used his skill, Blood Serpent's Frenzy. Suddenly, the bandit's boss, Plum, appeared, and he queried who dared to be so bold and pronounced that Sal should die. Sal managed to block Plum's attack with his sword. He used his swordsmanship inheritance third skill, Blood Shadow Slash. Plum recognized the blood magic sword, so he probed if Sal was from the Cooper family and if he knew who they were. But Sal did not let Plum finish his sentence, and he slashed his throat. Sal used his blood sword skill and summoned clones. He articulated that he didn't care who the bunch of evil bastards were. Suddenly, Mio arrived and called Sal's attention. Sal interrogated Mio how it was and if he found the place he told him about. He expressed that Mio should lead the way. A few moments later, Sal grabbed a stone on the wall and moved it. A huge boulder suddenly moved to the side and opened a path for Sal. Sal quickly walked down the stairs where Angela was. Angela immediately inquired Sal if he was a good person who came to save her, and Sal indicated that he was there to bring her to her father and ask him to teach him sword techniques. While he reckoned that Angela once mentioned that she could tell if someone was lying and could sense their true intentions, whether kind or evil, so he needed to be honest. Angela commented that Sal wasn't lying, so they should go. Sal carried Angela as they walked back up the stairs. He asserted that he was afraid that they wouldn't be able to leave easily. A skeleton colossus blocked their way. Sal called Angela and stated that the big guy on the outside is very powerful and he could only block his attacks once, so when he rushes out to attract his attention, she should run away as fast as she could, to which she agreed. He believed that the power of a 4-meter-tall skeleton colossus is comparable to that of a sword saint, and the guy was almost 5 meters tall, so he called the dragon and declared that they really risked their lives at that time. Sal called Angela and remarked that she should get ready. Angela replied that Sal shouldn't worry because she is ready. Sal let out a deep breath. He quickly charged towards the skeleton colossus. The skeleton colossus swung its huge claws at Sal. It pronounced that Sal should die, while Sal voiced that Angela should run immediately. Angela screamed as she ran away. Sal noted that there was still one more move in that dragon armor, and it was the perfect time to test it out. He used his move, Dragon Armor Release, and forcibly deactivated the dragon armor state. Sal asserted that a mere skeleton colossus can't stop him on his path of revenge. He commented that at that moment he just needed to bring Angela out of there, but he trailed off when he saw that the skeleton colossus' attention turned to Angela. The skeleton colossus proclaimed that Angela should die and attacked her. A huge explosion occurred, and Sal called Angela with worry. Neo's wings suddenly spread into the sky. He did his best to pull Angela off the ground. Neo clearly struggled. He couldn't hold on to Angela any longer, and Sal quickly moved to catch her. Sal successfully caught Angela, and he carried her in his arms as they ran away from the skeleton colossus attacks. He cursed and muttered that it was a seal-type magic array, so he must destroy the array's core to escape. Sal revealed that with the damn thing chasing him, he doesn't even have time to scrutinize the array and find its core. Angela queried Sal if the array core he mentioned was located in an important area that others are not allowed to access, to which Sal responded and affirmed that she was right and inquired if she knew where it was. Angela informed that when the bandits let her out occasionally, there are 3 places they don't allow her to go near, and the building ahead was the closest one, to which Sal agreed and mentioned that they should head there first. Sal expressed that the skeleton colossus might be strong, but it's slow and could only use the skeleton cannon from a distance. He pointed out that he doesn't have the dragon armor on at the moment, so he would be seriously injured if he got scratched by the skeleton colossus. As they entered the room, Sal observed that it has been strengthened, but it probably won't last long. Suddenly, Angela called Sal and announced that the bow seemed to be calling her. Sal acknowledged alright and that they should see it. After Sal dispelled the dark orb that enclosed the bow immediately went to Angela, and she laughed. Sal questioned Angela if it was Sylph's blessings, to which Angela confirmed yes and that the skeleton colossus was almost there, so they should leave and go to the next place, and Sal agreed. Angela spoke that the second place was just ahead. Sal related that he found it, and it was right there. A huge black orb was set up in the middle of an array inside the room. A dark flame was contained inside the black orb. Sal breathed that it was impossible. He indicated that the mage who set up the array triggered the skeleton colossus's self-destruction. Sal called Angela and warned that he might lose his mind after using that move, so if he attacked her, she must find a way to protect herself, to which Angela assured that Sal shouldn't worry because she believes in him. He reckoned that he could only use that move, the swordsmanship inheritance 4th skill. Sal used his skill, Bloodbath Storm. He managed to destroy the skeleton colossus, who was in self-destruction mode. But the blood demon quickly got a hold of Sal's arms. The blood demon exclaimed that at that moment, Sal is his. Angela called for Sal with a worried tone. At the St. Gordon City Imperial Academy, Chris was still drunk and lay on the floor. A messenger suddenly reported to Chris, and as he stated that the Deathbringer of the second prince had left the city, he inquired if they should send people to follow them. Chris queried to confirm if the second prince, Sandry, was outside the city. He remarked that the messenger should take good care of his wine, as he was going to check it out himself and he would be back to drink it later. The messenger picked up Chris' bottle. He laughed and commented that Chris was finally free. On the other hand, Sal and Angela were still at the bandit's lair. Angela called Sal's name in a questioning manner. The blood demon possessed Sal's body again, and his eyes gleamed sinisterly. He swung his sword at Angela, and Mio helped her avoid the attack. Angela wailed as she called out to Sal. The dragon fired its dragon breath to stop the blood demon from approaching Angela. The blood demon swung its sword at the dragon as retaliation. Suddenly, Mio gestured for Angela to use her bow. Angela recalled what Sal declared to her earlier about her protecting herself. She pondered that Sal shouldn't worry because she will definitely survive. Angela fired her arrow at the blood demon. The blood demon swung his sword at Angela, and Mio dragged Angela again to help her dodge it. Mio and the dragon both tried to protect Angela from the blood demon. The blood demon laughed and pronounced that Angela was such an alluring little apple, so he wondered which part he should eat first. Angela considered that she couldn't move another step. The blood demon voiced that such pure blood should spill from a chest that is torn apart and flow slowly into his throat. Angela mentioned that Sal shouldn't be sad, as he has done his best. Her tears fell down on Sal's face. Angela's tears created a ripple in Sal's consciousness. Sal woke up and noted that the blood demon was going too far. The blood demon asserted that it was impossible for Sal to break free on his own. He insisted that Sal should stop resisting because he can't stop him and his mind will never be free from his control. Sal observed that the blood demon was right and that the influence he has on his mind is truly terrifying. But one move was all he needed. He used his skill, Blood Feast, to which the blood demon retorted no and that he destroyed himself, so he shouldn't even think about becoming a swordsman in the future. Sal explained that the blood demon shouldn't worry because Chris will help him resolve those problems, and very soon he will be dealt with too. But the blood demon indicated that Sal shouldn't place his hopes on others because he will definitely regret it. A few moments later, Sandru's Deathbringer arrived and proclaimed that Sal was the one who dared to bring troubles to his highness. He affirmed that Sal should die. Angela quickly protected Sal and responded that Sandru's Deathbringer shouldn't hurt him. Suddenly, Sandru's Deathbringer saw his hand get sliced into pieces, and he questioned how that was possible. Chris arrived and conveyed that Angela has suffered all those years and he came too late, so she should come and they should go home. But Angela uttered no and that she wanted Sal so Chris shouldn't leave him. Chris probed Sal if he wanted him to help heal his body. Sal expressed that it was not the only thing he wanted because he risked his life to save Angela to inherit his legacy. Chris laughed and revealed that at that moment, he was the one who saved Angela. But Sal maintained that although his mistake caused some small issues, it also freed Chris from Sandru's control, and he wondered if he was right. 7 days later, at the Imperial Academy, Chris relayed that Sal's body might not have fully recovered yet, but he had already announced to the entire Empire that he would inherit his title in the future. And as Sal pressed Chris on whether that made him the public enemy of the Imperial Academy, Chris scoffed and stressed that Sal could always choose not to become his disciple at any time. Suddenly, one of the students announced that everyone should look and demanded to know if Sal was the one who killed his own brother. Another student recounted that he heard that Sal killed his whole family. Another indicated that apparently, Sal even tricked Sword Saint Chris. But Sal ignored them and professed that Chris' inheritance is not the only thing he wanted, so a mere group of hostile students could never stop him. Sal was surprised when William, a Gold Swordmaster Commoner student who is ranked first in the Imperial Academy combat branch, pointed his sword at him. William opined that Sal was a villain who has harmed his own blood brother and a shameless scoundrel who deceived Sword Saint Chris with his scheme, so he will challenge Sal to a duel that day to strip him of all his honors. Sal saw Sandru and his team behind him that had such overwhelming hostility that could barely conceal the murderous intent, and as he reflected that it could only be the work of the second Prince Sandru behind those bandits, he wondered if it was Sandru's plan to use William's sense of justice to deal with him while he was severely injured. William reasoned that if Sal didn't dare to accept his challenge, he should leave Sword Saint Chris and abandon his noble title, which made Sal muse that when William met him for the first time in his previous life, he challenged him to a duel because he was used by others, and he didn't expect that to happen again after he was reborn. Sal supposed that in that case, they would do it like old times, and he announced that he would accept William's challenge, but if he lost, he wanted his eternal loyalty. One of the students remarked that William should kill Sal, while another observed that William should teach Sal a harsh lesson and let him know that the Imperial Academy was not a place where just any stray dog or cat could enter. William declared that Sal should take his attack. He used his skill, Imperial Swordsmanship, charging Heavy Cleave, while Sal used his skill, Blood Demon Swordsmanship, Bloodlight Stealing Shadow. Sal asserted that William should admit defeat because he was no match for him. William used his skill, Imperial Swordsmanship, enraged, and Sal believed that it was bad because he just used Bloodlight Stealing Shadow, and needed at least 10 seconds before he could use it again. William quickly swung his sword and used its momentum to maneuver his body as he lunged towards Sal behind him. Sal deemed that it was William's ultimate combo, and he was surprised that William actually mastered that move back when he was at the Imperial Academy. William used his hand to balance himself as he made an abrupt stop after missing Sal. He immediately jumped off the ground and used his skill, Swallow Return. William stated that Sal should repent for his evil deeds and used his skill, Heavy Cleave. Sal smiled when he remembered what Chris told him. Chris noted that blood magic is different from other forms of magic, and in Sal's current physical condition, he could barely manage the second technique of the blood demon swordsmanship, which is at the level of a silver sword guardian, so if he uses his third technique, it might not only trigger the blood demon phantasm but also cause his fragile, newly recovered body to collapse again. Sal silently apologized as he considered that William's loyalty is something he is willing to bet his life to get. William mentioned that it was over, but Sal managed to dodge his attack just right before it hit. Sal used his blood demon swordsmanship third technique, 1,000 blood shadow blades. He conveyed that William should take his attack. William inquired if swordsmanship could actually do such a thing, and Sal expressed that he finally saw that interesting expression on his honest and reliable William once again, which really makes him nostalgic. Sal's eyes started glowing red, and he started laughing sinisterly. While Sal continued to laugh, William figured that there was something wrong with the bloodlust surrounding Sal, and he wondered what he could do. The other students quickly gathered behind William, ready to fight Sal. Sandru's fire mage also prepared to fight. The ice mage also got ready to fight. The lightning mage also did the same while he commented that it was blood magic, and sure enough, Sal was a bastard who used blasphemous magic. One of the students opined that with such dense magic power, Sal must be an evil villain who kills indiscriminately, so he deserved to be killed by everyone. Another student maintained that William should stay back because there was nothing more he could do there and he should not sell his life to the vile bastard. But William insisted that Sal has already earned his eternal loyalty, so even if Sal is truly an evil person, he will protect Sal and die before he does. Chris stepped in. Chris clicked his tongue and added that Sal was really like him when he was young, which is so troublesome. He responded that taking advantage of someone's peril is not the style of the Imperial Academy students, and once Sal recovers, there will be plenty of opportunities for them to compete with him. One of Sandru's mages replied that Chris was so scary and he felt like he could die at any moment, while one of the students voiced that he felt like he had already died once. Morin Shavat, the second son of the Shavat family, inquired what they should do, to which Sandru queried if he was right that he remembered that Sal entered the academy through a recommendation as a response and suggested that Morin should come with him to the trial mission hall. Sandru reckoned that to think that it was actually blood magic, it was really something that would lead to a fatal end. Meanwhile, Andrea called her professor, Cassidin Mystagogue, and avowed that she wanted to help Sal because only she could deal with the blood demon phantasm affecting him. Cassidin indicated that Andrea shouldn't be silly as it is better for her to stay away from Sal because what he practices is evil blood magic, but Andrea wondered if she didn't say that the magic faction and the ethics of magic are unrelated. Cassidin affirmed that Andrea was right as the majority of them are unrelated. However, blood magic is different from other magic. On the other hand, Chris averred that blood magic is different from other magic, so if Sal wanted to master the blood demon swordsmanship perfectly through blood magic, he must possess absolutely perfect mental power, willpower, and physique. Chris recalled that he went through great pains to help Sal recover those past 7 days. He also recalled that he taught Sal how to use the bloodline magic power of blood magic to replace physical strength in using blood demon swordsmanship and in controlling and enhancing his body. Chris probed if it was how he would repay him, by using his body, which hasn't fully recovered yet, to do something reckless, and who was going to settle his vendetta with the Cooper family if he wanted to cripple himself so badly. Sal proclaimed that of course he is not that naive, but some things are worth risking everything for, and as he challenged if he didn't agree. Chris interrogated what would happen if he died and if he harmed others, and Sal contended that he believed that Chris would not tolerate his disciple heir going mad and committing a massacre. The head of the Combat Academy branch, George Brandon, cleared his throat, and as Chris pressed what he was doing there when he didn't welcome him in there, George confirmed that he was outside the room. George attested that Sal is a noble recommendation student, and according to the school regulations, he would request him to complete the trial mission within 1 week to prove his eligibility to stay at the Combat Academy. He argued that Chris shouldn't let his little schemes affect the normal teaching order of the school because the headmaster may be lenient with him, but he won't. Sal quizzed if he had a feud with George, to which Chris scoffed and uttered that it was just a blade that anyone could use. An old stubborn fool who was lucky not to die by his hands, so as long as Sal didn't break the rules, he wouldn't need to care about George. So Sal queried if he would go and complete the trial mission as fast as possible, and Chris advised that Sal should go and make his preparations because if the mission is personally arranged by that old stubborn man, he is afraid that it won't be easy. At night, at the entrance of the wilderness secret realm, Sandru posited that the trial mission that the old stubborn man assigned to Sal is in that secret realm, so Morin should go in ahead of time and pour the potion into the water source. The beasts on the secret realm all started looking sinister, and they emitted a dark aura. Sandru recounted that as for how crazy Sal will get, it will all depend on when Chris stops holding back and moves to kill Sal. The next day, Sal declared that he planned to find William after accepting the mission, and William remarked that he was afraid that the mission wouldn't be easy to complete. But Sal stated that he knew that long ago because George dislikes his master, so George will intentionally make things difficult for him. But William noted that it was not that, and the current situation is very complicated, so everyone is gathered at the Grand Hall. Felix, George's disciple, was the student on duty at that time, and William mentioned that everyone waited for Sal to make a fool of himself. Andrea was about to talk to Sal, but Sal shook his head at her. Sal asserted that he was there to accept the trial mission, and as Felix inquired for his name and school, Sal added his name and that he is from the Institute of Combat. Felix apologized and conveyed that due to the mutation in the secret realm, the difficulty of Sal's trial mission has been elevated to highly dangerous, so it currently requires a team of at least 4 people, and William observed that Felix should change it to a solo normal difficulty mission then. Felix informed that solo missions will only be announced next week, but as per the Academy's regulations, Sal must complete the trial mission within 3 days to officially join the Academy. One of the students asserted that Sal should get lost because the Imperial Academy doesn't welcome a bastard like him, and as Felix queried if he planned to find a way to gather enough people or if he planned to safely exit the Academy. Another student inquired why he was talking so much to Sal and remarked that if it were him, he would close for 3 days and prevent Sal from accepting any missions. Sal wondered if he thinks he could not find any teammates, and Felix commented that it doesn't matter to him, but it was just that everyone else doesn't want Sal to enroll in the Academy, and more importantly, they don't want to become a lackey like William. Felix was surprised when Sal raised his sword at him. Sal avowed that if he could find enough teammates, he wants Felix to kneel and admit that he is blind despite having eyes and apologize to William for shaming him. Felix maintained that unless Sal kills him, he should not even dare think about making him kneel, to which Sal replied that he won't kill Felix, but he will report everything to his master, Chris, and he queried if he really believed that Chris wouldn't take action to protect his disciple. Felix observed that Sal should speak after he gathers enough teammates by that night. But Sal added that there was no need if it was just an adventuring party of 4 people. Andrea introduced herself and declared that she is from the Institute of Magic, while Gloria introduced herself and stated that she is from the Institute of Combat, and both of them noted that they are willing to join Sal's party. Sal addressed Felix as the senior with squinty eyes as he exclaimed that Felix should take a moment to register the mission, and he should kneel and apologize. As Sal inquired if he wanted to make things difficult for him and if he was prepared to bet his life on it, one of the students queried how Sal could do such a thing, while another student mentioned that as expected, a villain is a villain because Felix was merely following the rules and Sal resorted to using Chris's name to bully others. As Sal and the others walked away, William stated that Sal doesn't actually have to go to that extreme for his sake, but Sal insisted that William should remember that as long as they did not do anything wrong, they must not let trash stand above them and do whatever they wanted, and he will never do anything wrong. Meanwhile, Felix proclaimed that he wanted to go over and kill Sal personally, but George declared that Felix must follow the rules. He observed that Felix should remember the shame he felt that day and convert it into strength because that way, he would be able to extract Sal's life away like the Grim Reaper while following the rules, and Felix consented. On the other hand, Sal and his group arrived at the dense forest of Lysa. The 4 of them stood in front of a portal. William recounted that it was the dense forest of Lysa, and apparently, the inheritance of the ancient enigmatic sorcerer Lysa was hidden there. But the Academy has had that secret realm for hundreds of years, and no one managed to find the rumored inheritance. He stated that the dense forest consists only of that mountain forest. The exit is at the lake on the mountaintop, and the base of the mountain is the most dangerous part of that secret realm, where it is said that nightmare-level magical beasts equivalent to titled sword saints roam. William commented that the closer they get to the summit, the safer it becomes, and near the top, there are only low-level monsters, so if they stay near the pond, they don't need to fear magical creatures as they won't attack unless provoked. He informed that the mist within the forest is poisonous, and a gold swordmaster could withstand it for about 10 hours due to their physique. But as for mages, if they don't have the corresponding magic and rely solely on their mana to resist it, even a golden staff mage will completely lose their combat power in about 6 hours. Sal opined that everyone should prepare for battle because something seemed to be coming. A noble lady with her 2 other teammates was chased by a swarm of monsters, and she implored for help as she ran towards Sal's group. William expressed that it was the Lysa's insect swarm, and not only is it hard to shake off, it also doesn't bring any benefits, so they just have to leave their active path. But the noble lady asserted that it is useless because they have run for 20 minutes and changed directions 5 times, but the swarm chased them. The shadow of the insect swarm loomed ominously over the noble lady and her teammates as they continued to run. Andrea used her skill, Fat Cat Hoo Hoo. A barrier quickly appeared and protected their group. Hearing the skill's name, William queried what kind of magic that was. Meanwhile, Sal indicated that the noble lady's group had spent 20 minutes running away, yet they didn't even have the courage to pull out their sword, and he probed if they were all even worthy of being called geniuses. Sal used his skill, Blood Serpent. His skill quickly moved behind one of the insects. Sal's attack eliminated one insect after another as it passed through them. He wondered if it doesn't even boost blood mana and remarked that as expected, those are worthless, evil creatures. A few moments later, the noble lady let out a sigh of relief, and as she conveyed that they were finally saved, Sal queried if she was not ashamed of being saved by her enemies. The noble lady clicked her tongue and declared that a country bumpkin has no sense of taste at all. She noted that a bastard like Sal, who couldn't even inherit a title or land, is nothing but a source of amusement, and as she inquired if he believed that a noble would truly see him as an enemy, she asserted that Sal should escort her out if he has any sense, and she might just leave a retainer position for him. But the noble lady noticed the monsters behind Sal and William, and she queried what those were. Gloria commented that they must be the monsters that were attracted by the insect swarm, while William observed that everyone should be careful because something was wrong with those monsters. A huge paw with sharp claws emerged from the dark mist. The huge monster appeared in front of Sal's team and roared ferociously. Sal affirmed that it doesn't matter because he just has to kill them all one by one. The Cooper family's blood demon swordsmanship is a type of swordsmanship inheritance with blood magic as its core. Because it uses magic instead of physical strength, the blood demon swordsmanship techniques are bizarre and unpredictable, making them difficult to defend against. Sal used his skills, Rock Pierce and Bloodlight Stealing Shadow, because for a wielder of blood magic to increase their magic capacity, much like a warrior strengthens their body, they only need to kill. He lunged his sword into the monster's mouth, and it pierced through its head. Sal controlled the blood, used the blood, absorbed the blood, and evolved the blood, as it was the core of the blood magic. While a blood mage cannot advance rapidly due to their fragile body, a blood swordsman bears no such weakness. No matter how much magic is in the blood, under the secret techniques of the blood demon swordsmanship inheritance, it will only make a blood swordsman even stronger. The only problem was that the malice of the deceased towards the living, lingering in that blood, would condense within the body into an eternal blood demon phantasm, and it was an eternal curse that only those with an indomitable will could suppress. Andrea inquired if he was alright. Sal stated that Andrea shouldn't worry because with Chris regulating his power, there was no way he wouldn't be fine against those mere high-level magical creatures. But Sal groaned in pain. A whirlwind of dark blood emerged from his body, and Sal screamed in pain. Andrea quickly used his skill, Wall of Stars, to protect the group from Sal's dark blood. Gloria queried if it was like that time in the dragon lair, and Andrea replied no, as it feels different at that time. The noble lady inquired what was there to be conflicted about if it wasn't common knowledge that those who practiced blood magic would all eventually descend into madness, and declared that the first and second heads of the Cooper family went mad because of blood magic, so it was remarked that the current head became the Silent Sword Saint to isolate the influence of blood magic on the family's bloodline. Andrea requested for her starlight to combine for her, and as she used her Starlink technique, the noble lady clicked her tongue and observed that it is useless to use that kind of spiritual resonance technique on a lunatic like Sal, so Andrea was really courting death. Andrea's eyes turned red. At Sal's spiritual world, the blood demon clicked his tongue and asserted that he didn't think that there was really someone willing to risk their life to save Sal. Andrea probed what it did to Sal. The blood demon asserted that it wasn't him. It was Sal who ate something he shouldn't eat. He declared that the first Cooper who created him was killed by that very thing, and as he interrogated if she still wanted to save Sal, he noted that Andrea should let him plant a blood demon seed in her heart, and he will tell her how to save Sal. But Andrea was already using her skill, so the blood demon laughed and remarked that people like her are always the dumbest, too kind for her own good. Ignoring the blood demon, Andrea just considered Sal and that she would definitely save him. Andrea used her skill, Starlight Purify, Streamlight technique, to wake Sal up. The noble lady maintained that using a 7-ring starlight spell at such a young age, Andrea must have spent all her time on training, so she is truly a peasant who doesn't know how to enjoy life. Gloria commented that the noble lady should either come over and help or she should shut her mouth and hide at the back, which made the noble lady click her tongue. Meanwhile, the dark blood surrounding Sal slowly subsided. The blood demon clicked his tongue and declared that Sal was actually rescued by Andrea, so he was such trash. Sal retorted that the blood demon should get lost. But the blood demon continued to click his tongue and added that if he hadn't promised Andrea to save Sal, he wouldn't have bothered showing up in that disgusting place. The blood demon expressed that he will only teach it once, so Sal should remember it well. He noted that Sal should identify the differences between the blood and determine what exactly made him lose control. And if Sal let that kind of thing enter his bloodstream again, he would kill the girl he cared about, and he pressed if he understood. A huge, red crystal was formed after the blood demon condensed the dark blood that Sal released. The blood demon proclaimed that he and Sal will see each other very soon. Sal warned that the next time the blood demon sees him, he will regret it. He used his skill, Blood Serpent Violent Feast. Sal eliminated all the monsters in one fell swoop. A few moments later, Sal started condensing the blood of the monsters he killed into a huge, red crystal, the same as what the blood demon created earlier. A golden pillar of light appeared at the mountaintop. The noble lady stated that a half-saint level powerhouse entered the secret realm, so the school must have realized the situation and sent a teacher to fetch them. But Sal wondered why a half-level powerhouse would be deployed if something has changed in the trial mission, and asserted that regardless, he will complete it. Meanwhile, Oliver, the Golden Sword Master at half-saint level who is an advanced swordsmanship instructor at the Imperial Academy, descended into the lake at the mountaintop that was surrounded by monsters. He scoffed and mentioned that they were a bunch of ignorant beasts. Oliver eliminated all the beasts in one swift motion, and blood spurted out of their bodies. He believed that as long as he brought the bastard Sal's body back, he would definitely be in Sandrew's good favor. Oliver believed that with the item designed by the Magic Academy to specifically locate blood magic users, he could easily find the brat and kill him. Oliver heard Sal inquiring William if he knew why the level of half-saint exists, and if it could be that those people wanted to save face and called themselves the title. Oliver wondered if those were students Sal and his group saved on the way, and considered that with those students as witnesses, it wouldn't be easy to deal with the brat directly. The other students queried if he was there to get them out and thanked him so much. Oliver sighed as he reflected that there was really no other way because he is a good teacher adored by everyone after all. So the students will thank him for eliminating the evil disciple who caused the anomaly in the secret realm and revealing his true nature. Sal noticed Oliver's intent and remarked that it was a murderous aura. Andrea called Sal with worry while William noted that Sal should be careful. Oliver snickered and observed that Sal should be satisfied to be killed by a slash at the level of a sword saint. But Sal interrogated if the so-called half-saints were gold sword masters capable of unleashing sword saint level attacks. Sal stated that it was as expected of the academy to create such an ostentatious, but impractical thing. Oliver probed if Sal actually didn't die and if it was the true nature of blood magic, and as he declared that he would kill Sal again. Sal reckoned that the blood demon phantasm previously taught him to detect poison in his bloodstream using blood magic, but what Oliver was using wasn't poison. Sal surmised that it was something different. He deemed that it was the way Oliver's internal power operates, and by sensing that, he could see through Oliver's moves and actions, and once he understands the mechanism, he might even be able to replicate others' techniques in the future. Andrea used her skill, Fat Cat Hoo Hoo, and repelled Oliver. William quickly used her skill, Empire Sword Technique, and attacked Oliver from behind. Oliver struggled as he blocked William's attack. He cursed as he presumed that Sal was harder to kill than he imagined, and William's attacks were also harder to deal with than usual, so it looked like he could only use that certain move. Oliver swung his sword and attacked the lake as he figured that all of the students should die. His attack disturbed the water and created huge ripples. A five-headed monster emerged from the lake. Oliver wondered if he was right that the student would be grateful to the teacher for arranging that real battle training. One of the students cursed and mentioned that Oliver is going to kill them. Another student opined that it was impossible because Oliver wasn't that kind of person. But another student commented that Oliver has just used a magic scroll to escape, so he is nothing but a mad dog that bites randomly. Another student expressed that he can't die as he still has to earn money to support his family, and he still needs to achieve success. Another student was trembling in fear and had tears in his eyes, but he asserted that he wanted to fight. The five-headed monster roared ferociously as it crawled out of the water and prepared to attack. Sal indicated that William should use his strength as they have to block that attack. He called Andrea and Gloria and advised that they should protect those trash as they are humans. Andrea immediately used her skill, Wall of Witnesses, and Gloria quizzed if she couldn't come up with cooler spell names. Sal called William and conveyed that he should give him the crystal. William tried to protest and replied that it was Sal's trial mission requirement. But Sal maintained that if they don't kill the monster, he will fail regardless, so William should give it to him. Sal assessed that it was a disaster level monster, so if he used techniques at the level of the blood shadow blades, it would definitely give the blood demon an opportunity to take control of his body. But he wondered what would happen if he used swordsmanship and magic below the silver level. He called William and urged that he should cover him because he needs some time. William quickly blocked the monster's attack and protected Sal, but the monster's attack was so powerful that it sent William flying. All the heads of the monster loomed over Sal, and their eyes were all focused on him. William used his skill, Empire Sword Technique. He inquired how much longer he needed to fully absorb the blood magic crystal. Sal stated it would be a few more minutes. Meanwhile, Gloria used her skill, Destruction Sword Dance Symphony. She was exhausted and started losing consciousness. Andrea called her and remarked someone should save her. Sal used his blood technique to catch her from her fall. He declared that the magical beast's time of death has come. He used his skill, Blood Flame Savage Serpent Slash. His attack hit the magical beast, and it screeched in pain. It was simple. It got cut in half and was burned by the flames. A few moments later, the flames died down and the smoke began to settle. Louis and the other students were all exhausted, and they struggled to stand. He asserted that Sal was the devil who practices blood magic, the evil spawn who abandoned his family, and the bastard who harmed his brother, and William responded no. But Louis yelled as he raised his sword. He plunged it on the ground. He explained that without Sal's help, he would have already been dead, so he requested that he accept his sincerest apology and gratitude and forgive his past foolishness and ignorance. The other students followed and requested that he accept their sincerest apology and gratitude. The noble lady suddenly commented that everyone should look and queried what it was. There was a huge insect swarm in the sky. Sal used his skill, blood vision. The insect swarm must be hiding some kind of secret. He called Andrea and observed that she should protect herself and take care of those students as he used his skill, bloodlight stealing shadow. He dove into the lake. He could see that the so-called Lysa swarm is just a tool for harvesting life force. The real goal was to use the heart within the magic formation to resurrect the mage named Lysa. He cursed the lunatic and added that it was black magic again. A bastard who steals others' life force to prolong his own life is better off dead. So he ordered his blood serpent to go and cough up a violent feast. Back at the surface, one of the students probed if his stamina had recovered, and another mentioned that his magic had recovered too. One of them noted that they should look, and as he interrogated if that wasn't the secret realm door, Sal affirmed that he didn't expect to find the exit by accident. Meanwhile, Oliver was thinking that everything that happened in the secret realm must not be spread outside. Otherwise, Sanders' plan to take over the academy will be affected, and he won't be able to gain a foothold in the academy anymore. Sure enough, everything is always going to develop in a worse direction because the door of the secret realm opened before schedule, and he wondered who survived. He will have to go all out to prevent any mistake. One of the students remarked that the door opened, so once it's stable, they will be able to leave, and another added that it was great because he doesn't want to spend any second in that place. Andrea queried if he was back and if he was alright, and he explained that he was the same as them. His stamina and mana had all been fully recovered, and he even found two things at the bottom of the lake. She noted that the crystal bottle has the scent of that strange poison inside the monsters' bodies, so it must have used to hold the poison, and that type of crystal bottle is very rare, so she will go back and ask her teacher to take a look. Perhaps they will find some clues. He thanked her. William observed that looking at that size, that should be the disaster-grade magic crystal left behind by the five-headed dragon, and it is a shame that those earlier magic crystals were used up, and they can't stay in that place with the poison mist lingering for long, so he was afraid about their mission. Louis chimed in and suggested that those were the magical crystals he had collected before and Sal should use them to complete the mission. The other students agreed that he should take theirs too and thanked him, which made William think that Sal is finally accepted by everyone. Which is great. A few moments later, Oliver inquired why the student couldn't just die quietly in the secret realm. Suddenly, Sal warned that it was bad. He used his skill, Bloodlight Stealing Shadow, and dodged Oliver's attack. Oliver shouted that he should die. Andrea probed if he was alright, while Gloria urged that he should let her help him. He used his skill, Blood Vision, and declared that he had seen Oliver's death. Oliver roared that Sal was a bastard, so he should die. But Sal retorted that the person who should die was him. As their swords met, both of them were sent flying by the impact. As Sal managed to land on the ground, the crystal bottle fell out of his pocket. Suddenly, George commanded that everyone should stop. He challenged if he even realized what he was doing, and he believed that he was a brainless fool who was ignoring the rules and was nothing but a burden. And as long as he completed Sanders' mission, the lives of a bunch of students didn't matter to him. Oliver countered that he is killing the evildoer who poisoned the secret realm. One of the students wondered if he was poisoned, while the noble lady inquired if he had any evidence, and he replied, of course. It was a magic scroll personally created by Albus. It could identify the scent of the poison, so if the culprit is among the students, the scroll would find him immediately. The light from the scroll quickly found the crystal bottle Sal dropped. One of the students argued if Sal really poisoned the secret realm and proposed that it was impossible because he just saved them. Another student proposed that perhaps he used a taboo substance for the sake of completing his mission, and took the opportunity to save them at the same time, completely turning his reputation around. Louis doubted if there was really such a despicable person. George snickered and reckoned that they were a bunch of fools and they let themselves be manipulated so easily, destined to remain pawns their entire lives. He pressed if there was anything he wanted to say, and Sal answered that it was always easy to frame someone for a crime by finding a pretext. If he wanted him to do nothing about it, he was dreaming. He wondered how he was so fast and if it was the power of a true sword saint. He cursed that he actually couldn't use his strength after being grabbed by him, and he couldn't even control his magic. George stated that according to Article 367 of the Academy rules, faculty and staff have the right to kill anyone who attacks school staff without reason, so the direct disciple of Chris should accept his punishment. But Albus quickly blocked George's attack. He remarked that he should wait because it wasn't the time. George stated that he should look at it as it was found in Sal's possession using the magic scroll he gave him. Albus used his skill, advanced appraisal technique, and saw that it was actually the secret poison used by the royal family to target blood mages, so Chris really took in a very troublesome person. It doesn't prove anything, so they still needed to imprison them in the dungeons and investigate slowly. It is better to imprison them at first. Otherwise, Sal will be targeted by a constant stream of murderous intent. George tried to protest, but he declared that it was enough and they would investigate when they got back, and they should not make a fool of themselves. One of the students queried if Sal was the bastard who used the poison or not, to which another noted that of course he was because George used Albus's magic scroll to find it. But another observed that Chris refuted it and Albus didn't deal with him on the spot either. Another student mentioned that he still thinks Sal is the culprit, but Louis asserted that he believed it was a setup by Oliver because they all saw how he disregarded their lives in the secret realm. On the other hand, Sal and Chris were back at the Academy dungeon. Chris explained that the poison was specifically used by the royal family to deal with blood mages, and according to his investigations, it came from none other than the second prince, Sandrew, and Sal insisted that he won't let him off and he will kill him. Chris scoffed and reiterated that he was so childish and he should stay there and think carefully because there is no shortage of enemies to kill in that world. And Oliver proclaimed that he was a fool because Chris' duty is to protect the royal family, and he actually told him right in his face that he is going to kill Sandrew. Sal added that he didn't expect him to still serve his master at that point in time when he doesn't care for his life at all. But Oliver clicked his tongue and informed that it was his honor to be able to contribute his strength for Sandrew. That made Sal remember. He remembered the time when he recalled that as the shadow of the Cooper family, it was their highest honor, and he cursed the royalty. He pondered if he had not considered whether it was worth it or not and if his talent and hard work were solely to satisfy the desires of that trash. He must have felt it too, being a disposable pawn, abandoned at any moment. If he does not have anything else he cares about, his family, and if he is willing to confess everything about the secret realm to Albus, he promises to help him break free from the control of Sandrew. Oliver affirmed that the bastard should shut up and he shouldn't think about making him betray his family just like him, a lowly traitor. But he just responded that if that was the case, they should see how well the master he was so loyal to will treat him. A few moments later, a mysterious man approached Oliver's cell. He retorted that Sandrew had arranged a duel for Oliver and Sal in the beast fighting arena, and it was his final chance. That precious vine of life will bestow upon him the final glory. Oliver commented that he swore to follow Sandrew's orders even if he died, and the man expressed that he was glad he understood and Sandrew would accept his loyalty. But Sal maintained that he will definitely die if he uses the vine of life and probed what the point of obtaining glory after death was. He sacrificed his entire life for his family and became a sacrifice, and he doubted if glory was really that important and if it was worth forsaking his life. Later that night, everyone gathered at the Empire's beast fighting arena. They averred that it was starting soon and cheered. The host heralded that that night's duel would follow the most ancient rule. The two warriors will fight under the attack of a magical beast, and whether by killing their opponent or teaming up to slay the beast, the last warrior standing will receive their cheers and a reward from their highness, Sandrew. The magical beast was about to awaken, and the duel officially began. Oliver professed that he has already seen through Sal's blood magic sword technique, so as long as he expands his area of impact, his bloodlight tricks will be useless. But Sal was able to easily block his attack. He inquired how that was possible, and Sal challenged if he knew how powerful a 4-year-old who is painstakingly trained in the sword and possesses an S-rank sword talent was. His body has fully recovered, so it was time to test Chris' sword technique inheritance. He used his skill, Silent Slash, and voiced that he has recovered his full strength so he can't defeat him. Meanwhile, Sandrew was wondering why Oliver wasn't using the potion, and he called someone to bring Grace over. Grace is Oliver's mother and Sandrew's cook. Oliver wondered what Sandrew was going to do with her if he failed. He looked at the potion bottle with hesitation. He can't fail. The veins in his body immediately popped, and he released an ominous aura. The magical beast started attacking them. Oliver requested for Sal to die for his mother, but he requested for him to help her separate his mother from Sandrew, and in exchange, he would help him deal with the underworld vines, and Sal pressed what he was trying to do. Oliver avowed that only with his death could his mother survive past that night. Sal was thrown out of the magical beast's way, and it was focused on Oliver. Oliver begged him. He used his ultimate move, Flame Whirlwind Slash. It should die. An explosion occurred. Sandrew denounced that trash is trash and he couldn't even do such a simple thing. Oliver's mother called his name and cried for him. He hoped that his death could calm Sandrew's rage and that Sal would accept his death as atonement and save his mother. Sal used the underworld vine core. Oliver groaned and stated that Sal must save his mother, but Sal inquired if it was the reason why he became Sandrew's dog. The core dug deep into his body. Sal remarked that if he dies, he is not going to help him save anybody. He should take care of his family himself and stay alive so that he could repay him slowly. He used his skill, blood manipulation, flesh rebirth. The blood of the underworld vine could neutralize the negative effects of the vine of life potion, so he should recover his body quietly first, and Chris will come look for him later. A few moments later, Sandru declared that he didn't expect blood magic to be so powerful that it could defeat both a disaster-grade magical beast and a half-sword saint at the same time. As the victor of the duel, he could ask for a reward from him, and he queried what he wanted, if it was treasures or perhaps he would like to beg for a pardon for his crimes. Sal noted that he wanted grace, and Sandru probed what part of the servant caught his eye and if he still wanted to take revenge on Oliver by targeting his family. As he expected, he is indeed a natural blood magic cultivator. In his bones flow greed, bloodlust, and a desire to wreak havoc on everything, so he should join him and become the new blade in his hands. Sal wondered if he is always so fickle towards his subordinates and commented that Oliver obeyed his orders, but after he died, his family immediately lost protection. Sandru walked towards Sal. He observed that Oliver's death was a tragedy, and Sal demanded what would happen if he didn't want to follow his orders. Sandru pressed if he refused and uttered that blood mages are born to be scorned by the world and only those who possess high authority could protect him, so he should become his sword. Otherwise, he will be expelled from the academy for being the mastermind of the Secret Realm incident. One of his knights mentioned that he is bestowing his grace, yet Sal wishes to refuse, and with such disrespect, he should die. Sal quickly blocked the knight's attack. The other knights asserted that there was an assassin, so they should protect Sandru. Oliver and Chris barged into the room. Grace called her son and sought to know if he was still alive. Sandru interrogated if he actually didn't die and expressed that he is a cowardly traitor, so he should go to hell. Sal indicated that the person going to hell was him. He quickly moved past the knights and used his skill, Bloodlight Stealing Shadow, to cut their limbs. He conveyed that it looked like Sandru's authority was not useful at all. Sandru challenged why he wasn't immediately killing the assassin who was trying to assassinate a member of the royal family as the captain of the royal guards and if he wanted to become a traitor too. Chris unsheathed his sword. He attacked one of Sandru's knights. He responded that the only person he is loyal to is their majesty. As the captain of the royal guards, he has a duty to investigate the origins of those 3 potions, discovered in the dense forest of Lysa and linked to Oliver, who came from the royal family. Fortunately, Sal saved Angela at that time. Otherwise, he would have been controlled by Sandru like Oliver. Sandru reflected that if he really let Chris continue investigating, by the time the truth is exposed, he would be confined by their majesty. The new student exchange conference at the academy is about to begin, and if he is grounded at that time, his elder brother will likely take over his tasks, which will delay his grand plans. He acknowledged that those 3 potions were bestowed on Morin before, and as for why they appeared on Oliver, he has no idea, and Sal pried if he meant that everything was planned by Morin and Oliver and has nothing to do with him at all. He affirmed that it was right and he will definitely punish Morin and give Chris an explanation, so they should call Morin over. Sal considered that it was obvious that he was the mastermind controlling everything. But just because he was the prince, he had countless people catering to him, and if he really hurt him, Chris would get in trouble too, so in that case, he would kill Morin first and break his wings. Morin examined if he was looking for him. Sal immediately attacked and proclaimed that he should die. But Alan blocked it and revealed that he was wondering who was daring enough to kill royalty in front of everyone, and it turned out to be a bastard like him. According to the sacred rules of the Empire, Morin is a baron. Even if he really killed Sal, all he needs to do is apologize to the Cooper family and pay a gold compensation. But Sal didn't die. Therefore, as a baron, Morin didn't violate any of the Empire rules, and he scrutinized if he wouldn't say so. He greeted Sandru and replied that it was the Cooper family's failure in discipline that had allowed the lowly bastard to confront him, so he requested him to accept the Cooper family's apologies. Sandru disclosed that their Cooper family's hunting dog should be kept properly in its cage instead of coming out and biting wildly, and Alan requested for him to rest assured. It had been a long time since he saw the bastard, and he inquired if he was prepared to be dragged back into the cage by him. Chris remarked that Sal's reaction that day surprised him. When that obnoxious guy from the Cooper family insulted him in front of everyone, he actually ignored those words and did not get mad. Sal stated that there was no point in getting angry because he had defeated Alan more than once in the past. But he has the Shadow Oath, so as long as he is not dead, the shadows in the Cooper family will suffer. The Cooper family's matriarch won't let Alan come there on his own to seek death. She probably came with him too. After all, Sandru is in charge of the new student exchange ceremony, and he will definitely invite the 7 great generational families if he wants to create his own faction to seize authority. One of Sandru's guards asserted that Sal was an evil bastard, so he would kill him in the name of the Holy Light and that Chris shouldn't be tricked by him and let him tear off his fake veneer. But Sal just noted that there was no need to show off their quick tongue because only those dogs who can't bite will bark the loudest. In the new student exchange ceremony, there will be many S-rank talents far better than the 2 of them waiting for him to defeat and make allies of. He doesn't have time to fool around with all of them. Back in the present, Chris laughed and replied that Sal was a good kid and he finally matured a little. He has arranged a meeting with Albus for him, as he is very interested in the inheritance of the first blood magic sword saint, and perhaps he might be able to teach him something new. A few moments later, Sal went to the Imperial Academy Great Training Grounds. Albus explained that he should come and use his strongest move to attack him, but he observed that he couldn't do it. He snickered and declared that Sal is a kid that respects his elders, so in that case, he will make the first move. Sal was surprised when a huge hand suddenly appeared behind him. Albus was using magic without incantation. Thank goodness he had blood magic act as a buffer, because that force was no less than a sword saint slash at full strength. Albus summoned his training magic puppet Model S and mentioned that he might not be as powerful as his peak, but he was still more than capable of dealing with a gold swordmaster, so he should feel free to use his full strength. Sal commented that he will go all out and requested for him to show him his skills. He used his fourth technique, Bloodstorm of Carnage, and Albus responded that it was very flashy, but the effects leave more to be desired. It is extravagant but not practical, so it would be better if he concentrated it a bit more. If it was burning his own blood energy to increase his damage. Sal used his skill, Blood Flame Savage Serpent Slash, but Albus retorted that it was too reckless and the Blood Demon puppet would take the opportunity to devour the host. The Blood Demon laughed and added that it was good, so they should kill. Albus informed that Blood Demon feeds on flesh and blood, so Sal burning his blood energy will only strengthen the abilities of it and force the activation of a more advanced blood magic sword technique, causing his own blood to be continuously depleted, which ultimately led to a backlash from it. It opined that the old thing should let him go because he wanted to kill them, all of them, and Albus cautioned that it even has consciousness, and its tone was just like the little Blood Cooper back in the day. Chris called Albus and instructed that things can't go on because Sal can't last any longer. Albus claimed that he shouldn't panic because he knows, and in order to protect Sal, he has to temporarily imprison it. Before Sal could master the power of the Blood Demon puppet, he was forbidden to use blood magic. Sal affirmed that the new student exchange ceremony is about to begin and inquired if he can't use the techniques he is most familiar with. Chris indicated that it was the reason why he had to master it quickly, and the core of blood magic was controlling blood, so he would give him special training from that point onwards, while Albus assured that he had become addicted to blood magic sword techniques. So if that power wasn't controlled, it would be a disaster. The armies led by the first and second Coopers were invincible, but they all died in one night, and he wondered if he wasn't curious about how that happened. Sal queried if it could be because the blood magic sword technique went out of control, and it was no wonder there are no such records in the Empire's history. Albus warned that there are many people in the Academy that Sal cares about. Only by fully mastering the blood magic sword techniques could he keep them out of danger. Sal revealed that he understood and thanked him, while Chris proclaimed that Sal should come because the time is tight, and they have to do special training on his blood magic. The less people who know about the secret training, the better. Chris noticed the bird that flew out the window. A few moments later, the bird was flustered. She saw Sal naked by the bath. Chris mused that when the first gets bigger, all kinds of birds will appear, and the Imperial Academy is going to get noisier. On the other hand, the bird transformed into Luna, and she professed that it was just a medicinal bath. Luna Forest is an S-rank prodigy from the Forest family, and she cursed and advised that the drunk cat uncle must have done it on purpose. With Sandru's orders to ensure that Sal refrains from using blood demon sword techniques, he has effectively handicapped himself, so she will definitely be able to eliminate him during the upcoming freshman exchange ceremony. Time passed, and Morin asserted that the date for the Imperial Academy's annual new student dueling ceremony had arrived, and it is a rare event in St. Gordon, and the seats will usually be full. The audience can not only see the unique talents of the freshmen but also the family heads of the legendary Duke families. Their Royal Highness, Sandru, respected representatives of the Duke's families, and their outstanding teachers and students of the Imperial Academy were all gathered there that day to witness the talent and potential of their new students. The ceremony is hosted by their Highness Sandru, and the victor will not only receive priority guidance at the Imperial Academy, but will also earn his appreciation and have a wish fulfilled. Sal believed that Sandru's intention of recruiting people was really clear as day, but that wish came at a great time because if he wins that competition, the Cooper family's downfall is going to get quicker. Morin declared that the dueling competition is divided into preliminaries and elimination matches. The 8 students who earn the qualifications from the preliminaries shall advance to the 1v1 elimination matches, where the victor will be decided. The preliminaries will follow the old rules. The first 8 students who cut off the Hydra's head and bring it out of the arena will advance to the elimination matches. The competition began. It was so fast that one of Hydra's heads had already been cut off, and it looked like nature magic, which is rarely seen in the academy, so he inquired who did it. Sal considered that Luna mastered both the magically forged arrow and raven transformation at such a young age, and her talent must be S rank, so the newcomer from the Forest family is pretty capable. Sure enough, the new student's dueling ceremony has hidden talents. Suddenly, an axe came flying towards the Hydra's head. Luna wondered who it was who dared to steal the loot of the Forest family, and Thoradin drank laughed and thanked his little raven sister for giving him the qualification to advance. Thoradin pulled the chains holding his axe. He remarked that he shall accept it with pleasure. Luna noted that he is courting death, while Sal reflected that it was interesting, and he wondered who would win, the kings of the Forest family, or the king of storms, the Drank family. Thoradin commented that Luna is full of hot air and queried how that attack could break his defense. She should be careful not to lose too much hair and become bald. And Sal mused that it was as expected of a member of the Drank family, who had the reputation of having a monstrous defense. Warren stated that the first place was Thoradin, earning the qualification to advance to the elimination match. One of the students affirmed that he was so strong, and another probed if he won quickly, while Sal reckoned that the Hydra is more dangerous than the 5-headed dragon in the secret realm. But fortunately, there is a seal suppressing it. Otherwise, it would be troublesome. Gloria suddenly explained that it was just a sneak attack trick and that they should watch her. They shouldn't let the northern barbarians look down on their empire's warriors, and Sal presumed that it was as expected from the Isak family, once known as the king's right hand in his past life. On the other hand, William mentioned that they should kill, and it was the home court of their imperial academy, so everyone should charge. The Hydra has been enraged, so they should defend themselves immediately, and Sal conveyed that Andrea should be careful. The Hydra should back off. Andrea expressed that Sal is incredible because his sword energy is strong enough to slash through a magical beast, and he supposed that the Hydra's true powers have been heavily suppressed, so it looks like the Academy doesn't want to see any Earth in the preliminaries. William suddenly called Sal and informed that he finally got one too, and Sal imagined that it was nice because once he gets another head, all members will successfully advance. It is rare for the Hydra to be suppressed to that extent, and apart from the head, he wanted to retrieve something else. He called Andrea, Gloria, and William and uttered that all of them should get back because he would use it as training, to which they agreed and observed that he should be careful. He swiftly maneuvered and dodged the Hydra's attack. Although he couldn't use his blood magic, he was able to withstand the Hydra's attack since his body had strengthened. He went and grabbed the head of the Hydra that was about to release its blaze magic attack. It should have a taste of its attack itself. The Hydra's rapidly regenerating shield has been shattered by its own strongest attack. When 8 of the Hydra's heads are cut off, it will consume the center head's energy to instantaneously regenerate the other heads. That will lead to the Hydra entering a state of extreme weakness. At that moment, he just needed to use the sword to cleave at the Hydra, and if he used the blood magic resonance taught by Chris, he would be able to obtain the Hydra's rapid regeneration ability. But Alan blocked his final attack. He laughed and responded that Sal is as foolish as always. He tried to challenge the most difficult head but ended up in a miserable state and also missed the final qualification. He suggested that he kneel down and beg him because no one knows. He might let him have it. Sal replied that his skin is quite thick. Alan voiced that if Sal didn't care about advancing, he challenged what about his companions if he did not care about them either. Sal broke free as he called Alan's name. At that moment, the Hydra also broke free from the seal. The Hydra quickly regenerated and grew so many heads. Sal indicated that Alan was courting death.
Sandra remarked with a rough edge that the Hydra's seal had been broken, so that bastard from the Cooper family clearly carried a death wish, and he tossed in that maybe a few of those playthings in the arena should drop dead, since that would only make things far more entertaining. Alan turned towards Sal and declared that all the humiliation from the past would be dumped back onto him that day, and he'd use his blood to scrub away every shred of shame. He then shifted his gaze toward Lysa and ordered her to attack. He had dragged out the fiercest hound from the Sana family. Sal cursed inwardly, thinking that Lysa's black magic bound, weakened, and drained life, so fighting her would only chew him up, and because of Alan's interference, he failed to sever the Hydra's main head, leaving the beast completely unsealed. Sal rammed his sword straight into the Hydra's skull. He resolved with bitter calm that if that was how it turned, Alan would suffer the fallout and taste the Hydra's rage himself. Alan spat that he was a fool and pressed if he really believed hacking off Lisa's hair alone could stop her. She muttered an incantation and her hair lashed outward in all directions. Her locks sucked the fire blazing off the Hydra. Sal grimly admitted it was curious to see the flames swallowed and reshaped into new forms, but he deemed it a pity. Provoking the Hydra and exploiting its power like that, the monster would absolutely lash back against such an obvious poke. It had just broken free, and the narrow chance to strike it was slipping away, so he needed to deal with Alan fast. Lysa warned Alan sharply to stay alert. Sal cut down the creatures she spawned with ruthless efficiency. He sneered at Alan, asking if he really thought those flimsy things could shield him from death. But Alan twisted the field with his damage transfer, and as Sal grimaced, he wondered if it was another cursed trick keeping him alive, realizing the bastard was maddeningly hard to finish off. William leaned in and asked Sal if help was needed. Sal snapped that it wasn't, ordering them all to clear out of the arena immediately and haul Lysa along. William replied, "All right," while Moran rattled off that third place belonged to Gloria Isaac, fourth to Andrea, and fifth to some nameless knight, and all three had clinched qualification to move forward to the elimination match. William remarked that Lysa should loosen her grip, and as he pressed if she couldn't see Sal had no intent to kill her, Moran chimed that he himself was sixth place, snagging his ticket to the elimination round. William pointed out that if she stayed, she'd only stall Sal from settling his score with Alan. She didn't need to throw her life away shielding that piece of human scum. He softened with a gentle smile aimed at her. He told her that once they grew stronger, they'd have the strength to defend themselves. Moran then announced Lysa Sana as seventh place, giving her the right to advance, and William underlined that it was an achievement she had clawed out herself, adding he hoped to face her fairly in the next round. Back in the fight, Alan snarled that she was a bastard and the dog had turned traitor. Sal pressed him coldly if he was ready to die now that no one was around to soak up his damage. Alan shot back if he really wanted him dead, sneering that it was a shame he wouldn't get the chance because he'd be the last to advance, fit only to be chewed up as Hydra's food. Sal's sword cut through the air. He pressed Alan if he thought it was real, mulling that he never could have chopped the Hydra's head so cleanly without him. So, in a twisted way, he ought to thank him for bleeding out so much of its energy. He added that Alan had helped him seal the ritual when the Hydra was weakest. Chris once whispered about an ancient blood magic rite recorded in old tomes. By mingling his own blood with that of the beast, he could forge a resonance through blood magic. The system flared a message that he had gained the S rank ability, rapid regeneration. He explained that at such a level, humans could synchronize deeply with magical beasts, not only seizing command of their movements, but also stealing their innate talents. Alan reeled in horror when he saw his arm hacked clean off. He shrieked that Sal dared to rip his arm again, and Sal retorted with cold amusement that this time it was a pity since he'd never regrow it. He received the Hydra's A-rank ability, Corrosion. He challenged Alan if he had ever felt the true embrace of shadows as the master of the Shadow Oath. Alan muttered that he understood now. No wonder the bastard endured until this point, but he barked back if Sal really believed that would matter, swearing any harm would still be funneled into endless shadows. Sal countered that he clearly didn't get the Shadow Oath at all, since shadows bearing pain for the master couldn't dump it onto another, and with the Hydra's regenerative edge in him, that level of assault wouldn't harm him, wouldn't even register as pain, so Alan could savor that sweet bite of agony on his behalf. Alan screamed no, blurting that he was nothing short of a lunatic, pleading first to be released, then begging to just be killed outright. Sal snapped that death was too easy. He wanted him to crawl through a filthy, painful life, trembling for the next wave of torment, muttering that it mirrored his own cursed past existence. Moran then called out Sal Cooper as 8th place, earning his step into the elimination match. Thoradin remarked with blunt awe that it was a thick head, the Hydra's main skull, which no one had ever slain, so that fighter was monstrously strong. Sal spotted him and declared that he was the first from the Dranka line to advance, famed for near impenetrable defense and the whispered art of dragon taming. Both traded words that they looked forward to clashing. Moran wrapped it by stating that the 1-to-1 elimination rounds would kick off the next day, with the first bout being Thoradin Dranka against Sal. Sal figured he was up against a monster opponent like Thoradin in the first round of the elimination match, which made it obvious to him that the second prince was gunning straight for him. He considered it perfect timing since if he wanted the crown at the end, he'd have to cross him anyway, and he felt dead certain he would walk out undefeated. Thoradin barked at him to take the brunt of his heavy axe swing, and he registered the blow as ridiculously strong and alarmingly quick, something he definitely couldn't block head-on. Thoradin came at him in a flurry, but he slipped clear of every strike without breaking a sweat. Thoradin pressed if he was scared to clash head-on and jabbed at him for dancing around like a slippery loach. Sal perched himself right on the blunt side of the axe just to get under his skin. He fired back, asking who was the coward of the two, and jabbed that the Dranka family, long hailed as a sea of warriors, only ever looked like men hiding in the distance while flinging weapons. Thoradin snapped that he should dare to repeat it. Sal threw in that for a true man he wasn't tall, but damn, his strength was nothing to laugh at. Thoradin branded the move cunning, and as he pressed if Sal was just trying to rile him up to land a cheap shot, he declared he wasn't about to let it happen. He yanked his axe back. Right after, he blasted out a crushing aura. Sal grimaced inside since he hadn't expected his defense to be that insane, shrugging off even the joint assault of ring thorns and corrosion without leaving a scratch. Thoradin drilled him if he hadn't been arrogant earlier and declared he'd pay for his words, while Sal shot back if that was so, then he'd humor him. Thoradin spat that he should just die, but then Sal whipped out his blood magic, Resonance Halt. Thoradin cursed and barked at him, demanding what trick he pulled. Sal coolly reminded him that in a fight no move is dirty, so a hothead like him better keep sharp, otherwise someone shifty like him would always find the opening to forge a blood link. He hurled him straight into the air. He barked that he should stay put and accept elimination. Thoradin hastily cried out for Thor. The sky dimmed like a curtain pulled over. Sal instantly recognized Fascia, famed for agility and frost, and how its personality clashed hard with the fiery nature of Thoradin. It blasted out a freezing breath and snapped apart the blood link chaining Thoradin down. Thoradin growled that he never expected to be pushed into summoning Thor, and sneered that luck had simply run out. Chris pointed out that school rules banned summoned beasts in elimination matches, and griped it was unfair to Sal, while Moran cut in that rules were rules. But as a Dragon Knight, Thoradin was exempt, and if Sal had a problem, he could summon a dragon of his own. Back in the fight, Thoradin taunted that he wanted to see how Sal would dodge next. Sal clenched that it would end ugly if this dragged on, so he had to close the gap no matter what. Thoradin thundered that he would now witness the crushing might of a Dragon Knight. Sandru remarked he was truly a gifted Dragon Knight of the Drank family, and Thoradin's father swelled with pride, boasting he was his most cherished son. As the only Dranka in a century bonded with a dragon, wielding Fascia to commune with heaven and earth and channel the might of sky lightning, he looked destined to guide both family and dragon race to blazing glory. Back on the arena floor, Thoradin declared that to fall under such lightning was the highest honor. But Sal unveiled his magic dragon, and as its magic immunity sparked, he shot that Thoradin shouldn't celebrate yet. The audience roared with confusion, demanding why another dragon had appeared, and if Sal was also a Dragon Knight. Thoradin and his father both gasped. If it was truly a magic dragon, the beast whispered to be extinct. Sal mused only natural disasters could ever push a magic dragon to evolve, and in another life, Alan had it but never unlocked its growth. So it was a stroke of fortune that this one gained the lightning attribute, brimming with limitless power. He urged it to go wild and show off its newfound strength, while Thoradin reeled, shouting that it was impossible. Sal then unleashed his lightning flash. He called out Thoradin, roaring that the victory would belong to him alone. He drew in the dragon's lightning breath, poured it into his sword, and swung with all force. Thoradin's body jolted, roasted alive by the storming current. Sal coolly remarked that the referee could announce the result any time now. He savored the moment, feeling like sunlight finally bathed him, a glory that someone shadowed like him would never have touched otherwise. Suddenly, Thoradin's father erupted, calling him a thief who stole the Drank family's treasure. He snatched Thoradin's axe while the boy lay unconscious. He hurled it furiously at Sal. He demanded that the magic dragon be returned to him. The dragon batted the axe aside with a casual swipe. Sal sneered if it was his dragon to begin with. He lashed out that he was nothing but a shameless old relic and promised he'd shove reality in his face right then and there. In that world where nothing existed except weapons and magic, the dragon cavalry troops who could soar through the skies stood out as the fiercest and most overwhelming combat force. To keep the balance of inherited strength among all families from spiraling out of control, he slaughtered every single magic dragon in one devastating battle, and the last remaining eggs were locked away in Water Crystal City, with the key split into two and hidden separately by the Cooper family and the Yisik family. Thoradin's father remarked that magic dragons hadn't gone extinct, which was honestly great news. But the miserable twist was that a sly bastard like Sal ended up as its master, and he grumbled that dragons were the most steadfast creatures imaginable. Once a dragon acknowledged its master, it would never betray, and if anyone tried ripping it away, the creature would rather die. He pressed the brat about where he had gotten that dragon and whether it had siblings, while already scheming in his mind that if his Dranka family managed to secure one, they would undoubtedly claw their way to becoming the leader of the 7 great families. Sal declared that it was the last surviving magic dragon in existence since all the other eggs had been destroyed, and Thoradin's father immediately demanded to know who issued such an order. Sal leaned in closer and motioned for Thoradin's father to step nearer. He teased him with the question of who he thought wanted the Dranka family's return to glory the least, then tossed in the sharp reminder that obedience didn't always mean protection, prompting Thoradin's father to blurt out if it was the second prince and why he'd go that far. Sal shot back that only a dragon stripped of wings and teeth was the simplest to tame, and he mocked him by asking if he didn't see the truth in that. He turned his attention to William and pointed out that his opponent was from the forest family, people raised in the forest itself. They excelled at laying traps to snag prey cleanly and mercilessly. So William needed to rely on his sheer speed to close in and end things with his quickest strike. Otherwise, he'd get dragged into a defensive mess. William immediately unleashed his Empire Sword technique, Charge, and snapped that Luna should take that attack. Sal muttered that he hadn't expected her to get her defenses up that fast, and while William's strikes carried raw power, they were also easy for his opponent to predict ahead of time. At that point, it was smartest to use her attack as a breakaway from the vines, then pounce during her slowed reaction to counter. But William blasted out his Empire Sword technique, explosive energy, and Sal grumbled that he actually went with tanking it, though while it could shatter the vines, it drained too much stamina. William then roared out his Empire Sword technique, Swallow Counter. He didn't stop, charging forward again with his Empire Sword technique, Charge and Pierce. Luna slipped past his strike while letting an arrow fly at him simultaneously. He countered with his Empire Sword technique, Block Counter. Sal muttered that if William failed to finish it right there, the danger ahead would only multiply. William swung his sword with brute force. Sal curtly declared that he failed. In the clash, William shouted, demanding to know where Luna had gone. She mocked him that he had mastered the Empire Sword technique, but had nothing more to show, and he pressed her on when she pulled it off, and why he couldn't move. He froze in confusion as she sliced him across the body multiple times. Sal muttered that William's condition looked off, and he wondered if he had burned through too much strength early on. Then, it hit him that hallucinogenic plants were at play. He realized Luna had hidden fly agaric seeds inside the vine thorns from the very beginning. Once the vines broke apart, the fungus spread out uncontrollably. During William's last explosive attack, a flood of spores rushed in with the airflow and dragged him into hallucinations. He wondered if this was Luna's hidden ace and muttered that when his turn came, he'd crush her, for William's sake. Moran announced that William was out of bounds, so Luna Forest took the win. Sal turned to William, and he then demanded from Lysa who she was and what tricks she was trying to pull on him. She muttered that William was safe now, leaving Sal wondering when those two got so cozy, and he thought she was quicker than him in grabbing William out of trouble. It felt bizarre, and he questioned why the rescuer was skulking so far in the distance. Andrea remarked that Luna was too ruthless, since William's body was still reeking of strange hallucinogenic energy, and she couldn't snap him out of it. Sal offered that he had an idea, and he requested Lysa to jolt William a little with her black magic, since he desperately needed to wake. A few moments later, Sal exclaimed it was perfect, because William was finally conscious again, and he pointed out it was thanks to Lysa, so William should hurry up and thank her. He gave Lysa his thanks. She turned so flustered, her whole face burning crimson. William then demanded to know why she bolted so quickly after seeing him. Andrea explained that her magic and Lysa's had briefly fused inside William earlier, and she accidentally caught glimpses of Lysa's memory, revealing she had failed to protect Alan in the past, and even after saving William, she feared punishment from the matriarch. Sal waved it off, remarking she shouldn't stress, since her elimination match still awaited, and the matriarch wouldn't dare go insane enough to punish her before then. Meanwhile, Hera spat that Lysa was useless trash because she couldn't shield her master, yet still had the gall to step into the elimination match. She sneered, questioning if a dog like her deserved such a thing. The Sana family, infamous for their twisted dark magic, would scour the lands every year for poor children and drag them into their eerie temples like offerings to a curse. Their power came from the rawest kind of torment, the kind born deep in the broken corners of the human mind. They had no limits, no shred of decency left in them. Whatever humanity they once had rotted away long ago. Only the rare souls tough enough to crawl through that abyss were branded and turned into merciless weapons of death. Hera pressed Lysa, wondering if the dog of the Sana family had started forgetting her master's sacred creed. She reminded her that loyalty meant giving up everything, body, soul, and breath, for her master, without hesitation. Since she had failed to protect her master, that arm hanging by her side had already lost all worth. Lysa admitted that she failed her duty and couldn't guard young Master Alan from harm. She pleaded for punishment, asking Hera to do whatever she thought proper. But Sal cut in sharply, telling her to stop right there. His sword slammed into Hera's whip blade, forcing her to release it. Andrea stepped forward, reminding Hera that they were inside the Imperial Academy, and Lysa wasn't some toy to break for amusement. Hera sneered, recognizing Sal, claiming she hadn't yet found the chance to deal with him, and never figured he'd be foolish enough to come to her. She promised to clamp the dark magic collar around his neck, make him live worse than a slave, a crawling thing begging for mercy. Then she snapped her fingers, activating the collar already locked around Lysa's throat. Sal told her calmly that maybe Alan hadn't mentioned it yet, that the Cooper family's shadow oath had backfired and Alan had become his shadow. She spat that he was a filthy, revolting bastard, fuming at his audacity to treat Alan like that, growling that he deserved death. He shot back that she better hope he lived a long, happy life because every cut, every agony would hit poor Alan instead. She demanded to know what he was trying to pull, calling him a traitor who thought himself some kind of savior. She hissed that she would never escape the Sana family's grip. Unlike him, not everyone was an ungrateful brat, while Lysa kept begging for her master's punishment. He snapped that the family had no regard for life at all, that they were nothing but monsters without hearts. But Andrea warned him not to act out, reminding him that attacking a noble would get him disqualified. She had already glimpsed Lysa's memories and believed that if they could stir her warmest ones, she might break the spell of the dark magic. Sal leaned closer, urging Lysa to listen, saying she still had an elimination match left, and if she won, she could stay in the academy. There was still a fair fight waiting. She saw William's smile flash across her mind. Then she recalled the matches, the heat of the arena, the promise. He told her she'd be free if she could make it out of that basement alive. Hera scorned her for even daring to resist, calling her a worthless bastard, vowing to make her soul ache so badly she'd never dream of defiance again. But Lysa clenched her jaw, refusing to die there. The collar shattered as her hair lashed outward, striking Hera and knocking her back. She declared that she made a promise, and she couldn't just die like that. She couldn't die. William grinned in relief, saying he was glad Miss Lifesaver was still standing, and she demanded why he was there instead of having the headmaster treat his wounds. Hera scoffed that they shouldn't celebrate too soon. Even free of dark magic, Lysa was still the Sana family's private property, and nobody could take her away. But Albus countered that she was a match participant, not anyone's possession. Hera sighed that it was a shame the school's protection would end once the new student's dueling ceremony wrapped up, but he calmly asked what would happen if she became a student. Would the Sana family risk offending him for someone who had already married outside their ranks? She only scoffed and left. Sal thanked Albus, who replied that William had begged him, and as a teacher he had to meet his student's request. While Sal figured the headmaster had been swayed out of care for Lysa, he turned to William, saying she'd now be under his care. William asked why that was. Why not Andrea instead? Andrea just hushed him, saying he shouldn't interrupt her. Sal explained they wouldn't have saved Lysa if Oliver hadn't told him about the hidden basement. Oliver mentioned that before Albus got him involved, Lysa of the Sana family had already forfeited, and Moran had declared Andrea's advancement. In another group, Gloria faced the nameless knight. That knight crushed her effortlessly without taking a single hit, and even with his long teaching career, he couldn't figure out what kind of skill the man was using. It was almost time for his own elimination match, and if he didn't show up soon, Sandrew would throw him out for good. Back at the arena, Moran started a countdown from 3, warning that if Sal didn't appear by the end, it would count as his forfeit. He began the count from 3. Moran yelled out when Sal's dragon fried his mic with a wild burst of lightning. Sal remarked that they were getting way too impatient. He turned toward Luna and mentioned that they could start already. She muttered that he should take it then. But before she could pull her move, Sal unleashed the dragon's thunder flame roar without hesitation. He declared that he wouldn't let her pull off her old tricks again and told her to excuse him since he'd end this fast. Luna cursed and blurted that the attack was way too cool. Moran announced that Luna had flown out of the arena, meaning Sal won. But because the Thunder Flame magic dragon was way too overpowered, the second prince and the academy leaders unanimously decided to ban tamed monsters from the competition. Sal remarked that the academy sure was fair when dealing with him. Moran called out that the next match was Andrea versus the Nameless Knight. Cassidon pointed out that the opponent's defense was absurd and that Gloria couldn't even scratch him, so she'd better not hold back. When she spotted Sal, she scoffed that he was just a brat, but he brushed it off and mentioned that Andrea should stay sharp, and if she ever felt in danger, she should just forfeit and leave the rest to him. She thanked him lightly and said she was heading out. As the fight kicked off, Sal wondered who that guy even was and why he hadn't heard of someone like him in his previous life. Andrea announced that he should take her ice crystals Mei Mei, lightning crackle crackle, and rocks boom boom. Cassadine admitted she hadn't expected her to pull off 3 advanced attack spells already and noted that their names were strangely adorable. But the Nameless Knight simply stood unmoved as her attacks rushed toward him. He remarked that her spells were useless against him, and Sal puzzled over how the attacks vanished like that, as if all the elemental energy had been eaten away. The Nameless Knight then declared that the scales of power always return what's taken in equal measure. Sal urged Andrea to watch out because that guy was about to use his ultimate. She should back off fast. He figured it had to be wind magic, something that could both swallow attack energy and borrow the wind's strength for a vicious counter. It was an instant wind type of skill too, so his power clearly outclassed the others. Moran announced that Andrea had been blown out of the arena, so the Nameless Knight claimed victory. The final battle would be between Sal and the Nameless Knight, and he wondered aloud who would seize the crown. He explained that the winner would become the new head of the academy, and all students, commoners, and nobles alike would follow his lead through their years there. He then sneered, asking if their future leader would be the defeated dog Sal, cast out by his own family. And while some students joked about becoming the defeated dog of a defeated dog if they followed him, George figured the boy's luck had finally run dry. Moran continued, asking if it would instead be the mysterious knight who'd crushed everyone with just one strike, and the crowd roared for him to finish off the defeated dog. The finals were finally underway. Sal declared that his opponent was the strongest he'd ever faced, but today's victor would still be him. He would slice through that armor disguise, and at the same time slice through the noble's arrogant scorn for the defeated dog. And the Nameless Knight retorted that the Shameless always dreamed of flipping the world upside down, so enough talk. They'd fight. Sal guessed that it was the thing that had devoured Andrea's spell, and noted that it didn't seem like a skill, but a weapon that charged itself with absorbed magic. The Nameless Knight mentioned that he hadn't expected him to make it appear, and found it quite amusing. Sal remarked that he should let him test whether he was truly invincible. The Nameless Knight coolly told him to stop struggling because he'd never pierce his absolute defense. The scales of justice, he claimed, would punish him for his cruelty, but Sal just snapped his fingers with utter confidence. He mocked him for acting like a judge above everyone else and told him to watch closely since the boiling blood in his body wasn't about to be swept away by mere wind. There was no such thing as perfect defense, and relying on lifeless tools always left weak points or fatal gaps. He then unleashed his blood lava. He stated that if others couldn't break that defense, maybe their attacks were too weak, or maybe their strikes just weren't focused enough. He wanted to find out how much of his blood magic the knight couldn't actually swallow. The Nameless Knight admitted that he was a battle maniac and worthy of being his rival. He urged him to come at him so they could have a real fight. Sal scoffed that a real fight was laughable and reminded them nobles that he had already warned them not to underestimate the blood magic swordsman who thrived in the shadows. The Nameless Knight suddenly froze as blood surged up from beneath him. The crimson current tore into his defenses. He gasped, realizing that Sal had buried blood magic below while he'd been distracted blocking the strike from above. Sal remarked that he was just another conceited knight and told them to see for themselves who he truly was. The Nameless Knight remarked that Sal was the first person bold enough to press a blade against his neck. But since the victor hadn't been decided, he reminded that he shouldn't get cocky yet, then unfurled his angel wings, shield form, shimmering like divine armor. Sal figured he hadn't expected that it would be angel wings, realizing that the guy clearly wasn't ordinary. The Nameless Knight shifted again, spreading his angel wings, wing form with a smooth, lethal grace. Sal pressed if that was his real strength and tossed out that it was a pity. He vowed not to give him a single breath of rest. But the Nameless Knight sneered that he was just an arrogant brat who needed to learn proper discipline. He ordered him to try again. Sal barked that he should come at him. The Nameless Knight admitted that the thrill was intoxicating. Meanwhile, Chris kept sizing up that weapon and those techniques, realizing he was the same guy he'd trained back in the day, then wondered what drove him back now. Sal and the Nameless Knight kept trading blows, their strikes rattling the arena. Elsewhere, Sandrew muttered that he hadn't expected him to show his face there and turned to Moran, saying their secretly nurtured squad could move in, since that day would mark the Nameless Knight's death. Back in the fight, the Nameless Knight remarked that Sal's swordsmanship actually matched his own, and that he got fiercer the longer the fight went on, then demanded to know why. Sal challenged if he really believed blood magic was just for trapping him, then unleashed his rapid regeneration and blood lava. The Nameless Knight declared that he got it now, and if that was the case, he'd drain every drop of that blood energy, summoning his Storm Holy Sword. Sal snapped that he'd warned him not to underestimate a blood magic knight's strength. The Nameless Knight repeated that it was exhilarating and wondered who would win between light and shadow. His twin swords shredded through the blood creature Sal had formed, and the blades closed in on Sal. He taunted if he still planned to fight against death. Sal fired back that the one who should struggle was him. The Nameless Knight froze when the blood kept surging toward him even after the monster was torn apart. He growled that Sal was cunning, admitting he hadn't expected him to use blood energy as shackles. Sal coolly told him it was pointless, since blood energy was alive, and any resistance would just tighten it, while he mused that he wanted to see how many tricks the guy had left. The Nameless Knight then unleashed his weapon, Hand of the Undead. Sal countered with his Death Wither. The Nameless Knight confessed that he hadn't expected to be forced into using those relics, and if the fight had been purely skill-based, victory would have been his. Sal sensed something off because he had deliberately shown goodwill, yet the air around him felt far deadlier. Out of nowhere, an assassin lunged at the Nameless Knight, and Sal warned him to stay alert. He figured that to pull off such a massive ambush inside the Imperial Academy, the mastermind had to hold serious influence. At that instant, the Nameless Knight's mask slipped away. Sal instantly recognized him as Leonard Richards, the Crown Prince, the first prince of the royal line. He recalled hearing that the eldest prince was adored by soldiers and had personally led campaigns to crush rebellions in his past life. But it was tragic that he died young. Thinking it through, he likely fell victim to endless noble assassinations. Meanwhile, Moran barked that assassins were on site and ordered everyone to capture them, but to guard Sandrew first. Leonard growled that it was those same relentless scavengers again. He wiped out the assassins effortlessly with a few precise moves. He muttered that once they caught a scent, they never let go. Then he triggered his angel wings, vault form, and proclaimed that any rebel who dared to strike at the royal family deserved death. At the same time, Sal considered that if he helped eliminate the assassins and earn the Crown Prince's favor, Sandrew would no longer be a concern. He hadn't had a proper bloodbath since his rebirth, so that day he'd let them all witness the fury of the Godslayer from his former life. He mused that what defined an Asura was rivers of blood. He vowed to kill. Leonard echoed the same words.